welcome to Scrollin', a podcast about the Elder Scrolls Online. I'm Ket.
I'm Davius.
This is episode number 44. Did you actually watch the live stream last night?
Yeah.
That was a pretty good one.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job.
I don't know, that first part was a little awkward. It always is.
Yeah.
But, and also, that first part's also, like, rarely very informative at all. I mean, it's kind of neat. You see the trailer. There was a new trailer. It was cool. And they kind of hype it up a little bit, but not a lot of info from the official presentation.
Yeah. You can tell that they're, like, containing excitement. Like, they're like, containing this excitement, but they never, like, deliver what I would expect the excitement to be.
Yeah. As always, it's the after show, the live stream event with the like Gina Bruno, the community manager, and Jessica Folsom. That's where the real juicy stuff is. That's where we get kind of all the real info. So if you haven't checked that out, it's just twitch.tv/Bethesda. It's the most recent video on there. I recommend watching it if you're curious about what's coming up this year in ESO. It's extremely informative, and I was honestly kind of expecting to be underwhelmed, and I was pleasantly whelmed, I would say. You know,
I found myself very whelmed.
So Gates of Oblivion is the name of this whole year-long adventure, right? Like, what we have? What was last year's Dark Heart of Skyrim?
How dare you forget?
I didn't. I just listen. My brain's working a little slow. Dark Heart of Skyrim. We had the Year of Dragons before, so this year is Gates of Oblivion. Let's see here. I'm going over my notes here. The chapter in Q2, the big expansion, or what they call a chapter, is coming out. That's going to be called Blackwood, and it's going to be centered around Argonians and Imperials, which is pretty cool. I love Argonians, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yep.
And the big thing we were talking about in the last episode, we're not expecting to get like a big new class or any big new thing like that this year, because they already told us they're going to be focused on performance and quality of life and stuff like that this year. So, expectations have already been properly tempered, I would say. And so the thing that we are getting this year are new combat companions, like actual NPCs that follow you around and help you in combat. But it's not like the ones sometimes you get these temporary temporary companions in quests and stuff, and they'll kind of toss you a little heal here and there. They're super weak. These sounds like they're actually going to be somewhat significant. They've said you can change their gear, you can give them skills, level them up. So they may actually have some sort of real impact.
Yeah, I could see, they said they're not going to be in PvP, which makes sense.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, that would be, what a nightmare that would be. But I am excited for this. I described it to you when we were talking about it. It's just fun. To me, it's just a fun idea.
Thing.
And I love that I have something else to tinker with. This is going to be there's going to be some strategy, tinker, like you said, gears, skills, give me more stuff to tinker with. I'm all about it.
There's two things that I am hoping for. One, I hope that I hope that I'm not able to see anyone else's companion other than mine, because I can, in cities and stuff, that could get outrageous.
That's interesting.
I also hope that they can be put into the outfit system and we can dress them up and stuff. That could be fun.
That's huge. Yeah.
Think of the role play possibilities. It could have two brothers or whatever. It'd be a lot of cool stuff.
I look at this as I can very much see if these are going to be in dungeons and trials, because they said no battlegrounds, but they said in almost all other areas. I don't know if that means dungeons and trials, but
yeah, I would assume so.
I'm not like a crazy high PvE level player, but I could very much see these being right up there with the top of the meta of, all right, this is what your companions have to be to get, this ranked trial, or to get this top level DPS. Your companions got to be able to have this gear or have this kind of DPS, and I could see that being a huge part of PvE.
Well, imagine if also you're already 90k DPS, fully meta, Rockstar, and you have one of these things following you around. Just why not throw that on top of it?
Yeah.
I feel like what would be, I'm sure there's probably certain trial mechanics, like certain boss fight mechanics that maybe that would mess up, but I bet a lot of fights it's just like, well, why not have that extra help there? But who knows? We don't really know the details of how they're going to work exactly. So we will just have to see. The big bad, Mehrunes Dagon is this guy's name, right?
Oh yeah, Mehrunes Dagon.
What do you know about this guy?
I look at him as he's kind of like he to me is like the number one bad dude when it comes to Daedric Princes. I know
he just looks like the devil, right?
Yeah.
Like he just straight up looks like the devil.
I know Molag Bal has been kind of the number one bad dude because he's kind of taken over, and I can't remember what Molag Bal is off the top of my head. He's the Daedric Prince of like corruption or something like that. Like he's bad, and he just seems to me he's more like undead, kind of a gothic level. Mehrunes Dagon, he's destruction. He's just straight up bad. Like he is just a bad dude. Looks like the devil. Like he has always kind of struck me as number one bad guy of Daedric Princes. In a more like physical sense too, and whereas Molag Bal kind of works behind the scenes and kind of wears you down. Everybody he deals with kind of seems depressed or whatever.
Yeah.
Mehrunes Dagon seems like he's just gonna like smash you to pieces.
Okay. I didn't play. Where did he first appear? Was it Oblivion? Was it the game Oblivion?
Yep, the game Oblivion. I don't. Can we give Oblivion spoilers? That game was like 10 years ago, right? Maybe longer than that. Gosh.
All right, push the skip ahead 30 seconds button if you're worried about spoilers. All right, what is it?
So the biggest thing I would say about him is that he was such a bad dude as a bad guy in that game that the in-game fight with him, you don't even really fight him. Like there's an NPC that has to fight and kill him. They kind of let it be known like this guy's too bad for you to deal with. This NPC has to deal with him. Like you're not good enough to deal with it. You're for like the last fight. You just have to like stay alive for so long. Like it's just like don't die. Give the NPC enough time to transform and kill this guy.
Well, yeah, I mean in that trailer, which is it's this fully cinematic trailer, but it's like how could you possibly fight him? He's like massive. 1,000 times your size.
Yeah. In the Oblivion game, when you're running around surviving in the last fight, you just see his foot. You're like you just run around and you just like see where his foot is.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes down. I think they said in the chapter there's going to be a 12-player trial, so I wonder if we actually will take him on directly in that trial.
That'd be pretty cool.
So anyway, it's going to be a typical release schedule as in previous years. Q1 dungeon pack, Q2 chapter, Q3 dungeon pack, and then a Q4 story DLC with a zone and all that sort of stuff. So just like last year and the year before, it's all going to be tied together in this one long continuous story. So speaking of, let's get into this Q1 business. So that live stream was just last night, and then the next day, which is today as we're recording this, PTS went live for the Q1 DLC. So this is PTS 6.3.0, and the name of this DLC is Flames of Ambition. We have to be careful and not say Flames of Oblivion. It's Gates of Oblivion for the year-long adventure, Flames of Ambition for the Q1 DLC. So, the words get mixed up.
And you said Flames of Oblivion is an ability, right?
Flames of Oblivion is a Dragon Knight ability. So, anyway, this is just like every Q1 DLC. It's a 2-dungeon pack. We're getting 2 dungeons. Their names are Black Drake Villa and The Cauldron. And just like a normal dungeon DLC, we're getting skins, collectibles, all that kind of stuff. And of course, a bunch of new armor sets. So let's get into these. So this is the juicy stuff right here. So we'll start with the Black Drake Villa sets. So the first one I think is the best name out of all of them. I think True Sworn Fury.
I actually agree with you on the name. We usually don't agree, but I'm with you. That's my favorite named one.
All right. Okay. This is going to be a good podcast.
This is really shaping up.
Me and Davies are agreeing on things. All right. It's a good day. This is a light armor set, and this is, I kind of think of this as a Magicka crit-based version of Titanborn Strength. So, 2 through 4 piece bonuses, you get a line of spell critical, a line of spell damage, a line of max Magicka, and then the 5 piece bonus adds 708 spell critical and increases your crit damage by 4%. And then those values double when you're under 75% health, and they quadruple when you're under 50% health. So when you're under 50% health, it's 2832 spell critical and 16% crit damage. So just like Titanborn Strength, Titanborn Strength is giving you weapon damage and penetration as you lose health, but it's those same markers like 75%, 50%, and it doubles and quadruples. It's the exact same mechanic.
It's a cool idea. Increased critical damage, that's kind of hard to get a hold of. So it's neat to see a buff for that.
Yeah. My first thought was like, oh, put those sets together, but one's for Magicka builds and one's for stamina builds. I'm not sure if you could make that work, but who knows, man. As we're going to see, the meta is going to be getting shaken up so much yet again. Who knows what kind of wacky builds people are going to be coming up with. Man, it's hard to even hold it all in my mind what the new possibilities are going to be, honestly.
One of my favorite things about this set is it promotes, we always look at things from a PvP aspect. I'm sure this is going to be fantastic in PvE, but from a PvP aspect, one of my favorite things about it, it promotes not using Malakath Band.
That's true. That's true.
I like that. I like promoting not to use Malakath Band.
You're going to use it anyway. Probably.
You're going to put this set on. You're going to use Malakath Band no matter what. Doesn't even matter.
Next set is a medium armor set called Kinross's Wrath. So the 2 through 4 piece bonuses, you get weapon damage, weapon critical, weapon damage, and then the 5 piece, dealing damage with a light or heavy attack grants you a stack of Burning Heart for 5 seconds, maximum of 5 stacks. I'm sorry, my dog's running around. Oh. And then while you have 5 stacks, you generate an Aura of Wrath, which grants you Major Berserk, and grants your allies within 12 meters Minor Berserk. And remember, those were nerfed recently, right? So Major Berserk increases your damage by 10%. Minor Berserk increases your damage by 5%.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, does the wearer get both Major and Minor, or do you just get Major and everyone else gets Minor?
That's interesting. The way I read it, my first instinct says you don't get both. But
that's kind of what I think.
Now that you said it, I could see it granting both.
I could see it. I don't know. I think it probably does it. I think you probably don't count as an ally.
Yeah, that's kind of how I take it. But I'm really excited for this set. I love buff sets. Yeah. This is a cool buff set. I'm not crazy that the 2 through 4 piece is so like offense focused, but yeah. I can work around that.
Yeah, I like it a lot. For like a stamina support build, pair it with Powerful Assault. So that's the one, like when you cast an assault ability, so like Vigor, it increases everyone's weapon damage is it weapon damage or weapon and spell? I think it's weapon and spell damage by like 300, something like that.
This has got to find its way on old Hambone, right?
Yeah, I was thinking of putting it on my Stamina Warden support build that I've been toying with for a while, who has never really been viable in like the high MMR sweaty matches, I don't think. But I don't know, maybe this would put him there. Put this with Powerful Assault and, I don't know, some monster set or mythic item or something, and that could be pretty interesting. Just make everyone do a bunch of damage. You're all about just pumping everyone's damage up. Could be cool.
My mind went to, and this is where it's kind of a weird combo, but my mind to somehow put this with Spell Power Cure. And somehow doing a support build, and you're really just like, major damage buff to your team.
Yeah, I could see that those 2 through 4 piece bonuses would make that tough, but maybe you could, like I said, with this weird new meta, who knows?
Yeah, that's true.
So that's cool. Next set is a heavy armor set called Drake's Rush. That probably wins the lamest name of the patch award.
Who's Drake? Who is this guy? Why is he in a hurry?
I don't like his music, and I don't know why this armor set's named after him. Drake's Rush. 2 through 4 piece bonuses. You get maximum health, maximum stamina, and then for the 5 piece, when you bash an enemy, you and up to 11 group members within 15 meters gain major heroism for 12 seconds with an 18-second cooldown. This is a Davius set, right?
Oh yeah. There's still somewhere out there in the crazy mind of Davius. There's an ultimate an ultimate support set that just gives your teammates ultimate. This is right up there on that list. If I ever make that build, this has got to be on it, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you recently kind of tried to put that build together where you're helping your teammates generate as much ultimate as possible, and I think you ultimately gave up on it. But maybe this would actually make that viable. I mean, a super high uptime on major heroism for everyone on your team, basically like giving everyone the best part of Shimmering Shield all the time.
Yep. And if you pair this with, one of the existing ultimate gen sets, I think the better of the two. Well, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look, but the potion. The problem with the other two is that the downtime is a little crazy. But you pair. They have this heroism with the other set generating ultimate. You could really get some teammates getting some major ultimate.
Yeah, that seems pretty interesting. I mean, I could see someone finding that worth using just for selfish reasons, just to give yourself major heroism that much. Yeah. As well as giving it to everyone else. I feel like that's a pretty cool set, and I think we're going to probably see some people using that. Mm-hmm. It's pretty neat. Monster set for this dungeon is called Encratis's Behemoth. Maximum magicka for the 1 piece, and then for the 2 piece, dealing flame damage to an enemy grants you Behemoth's Aura for 12 seconds that reaches up to 12 meters. And allies standing in the aura take 5% less flame damage, and enemies standing in the aura take 5% more flame damage. And it's a 15-second cooldown. So 12-second duration, 15-second cooldown, so like a 3-second downtime. That's pretty good. Seems like a cool idea for a set. Unique.
Yeah, so I have 2 thoughts on this one. One, okay. I love aura sets. Like, bring me all the aura sets. I like the idea that we're seeing another aura set. Yeah, they're so fun and cool, and they make support builds like extra fun to me.
Yeah. And they usually look really cool.
Yeah, they always look cool. 2, I even like the idea of this set. Like, I like that it's, people in the aura take less damage for your teammate, and then it actually enemies in the aura. Like, it's a 2 for 1. I'm confused on why it's so focused on flame damage. Like, I'm trying to think of like how much flame damage is out there.
It's like specifically Dragon Knights.
Right, that's all I can think of is Dragon Knights, or I guess Inferno. Inferno staffs or flame staffs are pretty popular, but I don't know. It's very specific.
It is weird for it to specify that particular. It'd be way more useful if it was just all damage, and maybe just a different value there.
Yeah.
But I could see a Dragon Knight using it simply for the offensive potential, because they already have engulfing flames, which increases enemies' flame damage taken by 10%. So put another 5 in there.
It would be a very cool set on a DK, like theme wise, and I could see it actually being pretty good. This is maybe DKs kind of have their own specific monster set now.
That's what I'm thinking. It's a magDK set. Yeah, could be cool. So that's that dungeon. What was it called again? Black Drake Villa. The other dungeon, the Cauldron. So let's talk about these armor sets. Unleashed Ritualist is a light armor set. You get 3 lines of max magicka. 2 through 4 piece bonuses are all max magicka. That's really nice. I always like to see just max stats on a 2 through 4 piece bonus. Yep. 5 piece bonus, dealing damage to an enemy applies Ritualist's Mark to them for 10 seconds. Enemies with your Ritualist Mark take an additional 16% damage from your summoned pets. And there's I figured you would like that. There is a developer comment saying that that includes pets that are summoned from item sets such as Mad Tinkerer and Defiler, but it does not include pet-like effects like the Cliff Racer or Honor from Cold Harbor's favorite. I'm guessing probably the crows from Unfathomable Darkness. I'm betting they don't count either.
They wouldn't count either. I don't.
It has to be like a pet that behaves like a pet, that follows you around and that kind of stuff.
I've never felt like a developer comment was more directed at me than that comment.
Yeah.
I literally have a Warden pet build that uses magCro and Defiler, and I had questions about Cliff Racer, and I used to have Cold Harbor Favorite on the build. It's like,
That's
wow.
so funny.
Thank you for that clarification there.
That's so funny. So like that comment was just for you, Davis.
Yeah, like you could put Davius. This includes Pet Summit from.
I'm telling you, there's a listener on this dev team, I think, and they're a fan of Davius, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm a fan of them. I want that to be known. So my first comment on this set, it almost wants me to make Bearclaw. He's my Warden. I might switch him to a Magicka build. Is that crazy?
Whoa. Yes. That's crazy.
I know it changes him, but I feel like I have to find a way for him to use this set. But how can he use this set as a stamina? 3 lines of Magicka. That's a lot of Magicka. That's going to
be tough. Well,
I mean, he uses a lot of Magicka because he is a Warden, and Magicka's great to have on a stamina.
Yeah,
warden.
So maybe you could just not invest in Magicka at all otherwise. Like, don't use Tri-Stat Glyphs.
Just stamina glyphs. Maybe there's a way. I will try that first, but I feel like this set, I've got to get this set on Bearclaw. I mean, the bear, that set's going to work for the bear. The bear's going to be hitting crazy hard.
You could use blue food that just gives... health and stamina as well.
Yeah, maybe there's something there. I got to tinker, but I'm excited about that set. Of all the sets, that's the one that I'm like, all right, that one locking in. I'll find a way to get that on Bearclaw.
That seemed like one you'd be interested in. So there's like a couple of sets already that are right up your alley there. Medium armor set called Dagon's Dominion. The 2, 3, 4 piece bonuses give you a line of weapon damage, max stamina, weapon damage, and then adds 492 weapon damage to your area of effect abilities. And there's a dev comment that says that applies to AoE heals as well. That's pretty interesting.
Now, the last set, as I would describe as a Davius set, this right here is a Ket set. Straight numbers.
Just give me them numbers, baby.
Just give you them numbers.
I do like that. It seems like they could work really well on a StamPlar. They have a lot of AoE, like Jabs is just AoE. So like this with... Deadly Strikes. So this would be just straight 492 damage to Jabs, and then Deadly Strikes pumping it up by another 20% could be cool.
It does make sense on a StamPlar too, because you're also going to get that buff for
your ritual.
Yep, you should. Yeah, you should get it for your ritual, right?
Yeah, you get it for your ritual. Pretty sure. Yeah,
that should work.
They say that it applies to AoE heals. That's an AoE heal, absolutely. So that's pretty cool. The heavy armor set is called Fool Killer's Ward. 2 through 4 piece bonuses. You get a line of armor, another line of armor, a line of maximum health, and then activating block while in combat places a damage shield on you and 3 group members within 18 meters for 2 seconds. And it's a 4,000 damage shield. It absorbs 4,000 direct damage. So in PvP, it's 2,000 direct damage. If a damage shield breaks, the wearer of the shield, so whoever got that shield cast on them, they restore 5680 magicka and stamina. Sounds really nice, except it has a 30-second cooldown. Like if someone's shield actually breaks and they get that magicka stamina return, then there's a 30-second cooldown on the set. But if that doesn't happen, if nobody's shield gets broken, then it's a 10-second cooldown. So kind of weird there. I think the long cooldown makes it really not so great, honestly.
As I was reading through this, it was kind of funny. It was kind of like an up and down for me. From from a PvP's perspective, it's like, all right, activating block places damage shield. So I was like, all right, I'm down. And then it was like, if the damage shield breaks, then you get all this, sustain. It's like, okay, that'll break easily in PvP. So I was back up again. And then it mentioned like the cooldown. And I was like, no, I'm back down again.
Yeah, no, I was kind of in the same boat. I was initially thinking like, well, that could be kind of exploited as a neat sustain tool. But yeah, with a 30-second cooldown, no way.
It probably a pretty good PvE set, I would say. I don't, like I said, I'm no expert in PvE, but I could see this being a usable PvE set. I mean,
see, I feel like that cooldown makes it not really good in PvE either. This is a heavy armor set that activates while holding block, so it's for a tank. It's going to be on your tank. You're not really going to be controlling. You're holding block the whole time, so you're not really controlling when this thing procs. People are just going to be getting the shield all willy-nilly, whether they need it or not. And then when the time comes that they do need it, well, hopefully you're not 15 seconds into your cooldown, Nobody's using this set. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Set. Any damage shield is just straight out the window as far as PvP is concerned. Any set that grants a damage shield, in my opinion, straight out the window. And then this, just with the cooldown and everything, maybe they'll adjust it over the course of PTS. It's early. But in this state right here, no way. There's no way. That's just straight to the decon pile.
Yeah.
The monster set is called Baron Zodrus, Zaudrus, Baron Zodrus. The one piece bonus is nice. It gives you a tri-stat, maximum stamina, magicka, and health. And then the 2-piece, applying a status effect to an enemy, grants you a stack of Zadrus's Ambition. All about the stacks. Still, these years later.
They still love those stacks.
All about the stacks. Applying a status effect to an enemy grants you a stack of Zadrus's Ambition for 10 seconds, up to 3 stacks max. When you have all 3 stacks, then they are removed and you gain 3 ultimate. And then at that point, it's on a 2-second cooldown before you can start gaining stacks again. 2 thoughts that immediately came to my mind, 2 easy ways to get those stacks really quickly, is to use a charged Destro Staff and use Wall of Elements. Especially in PvP, a charged Frost Staff is very common to use. You can apply that chilled status effect to multiple enemies at once very easily like that, and you'll get all 3 stacks probably right away like that. And then the Dragon Knight, Burning Embers and Venomous Claw, those are 2 morphs of the same ability, guaranteed to apply the status effect. And I think there's a Nightblade ability that is guaranteed to apply a status effect. Or just there's others. Right? Caltrops, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can just kind of spam that and I think probably get those stacks really quickly. So 3 ultimate, basically... Best case scenario, that's 3 extra ultimate every 5 seconds.
That doesn't seem that much to me. I guess.
It's like in the ballpark of what I think Minor Heroism gives you, probably.
Yeah. I mean, you know me, I love some ultimate. I had to read this one a couple times because it was all right, so every 2 seconds you can get 3 ultimate.
Just kind of depends on how quickly you can gain those stacks. I'm guessing typically you're going to get 3 ultimate every 5 seconds or so.
Yeah, see, that's the thing is that, with the math I was just talking about, 3 ultimate or, every 2 seconds or 6 ultimate every 4 seconds. That seems really quick, but you got to get these stacks and then you have to get up to the 3 stacks and then those have to max out. It's I don't know. I guess it could happen quickly, but it seems like a lot for, I don't know. I love ultimate gain, but
there might be builds out there that can somehow exploit the chances of applying status effects and stuff like that. I don't really know, but I could see this being one of those things. It's like a sleeper, someone months from now figures out some weird broken build using this, but on its surface, it does not seem amazing.
Well, you have to compare it to Bloodspawn, right? And Bloodspawn seems like it's going to generate ultimate a lot better, and Bloodspawn gives you some extra. So that's true. Bloodspawn, you don't really have to do anything to kick it in gear, and you get some extra defensive abilities. So it's I don't know. I feel like if this was going to be this, it needs to generate ultimate better than Bloodspawn, and I just don't get that from it. Maybe I'm not doing my math right, or maybe I'm underestimating how quickly that'll build up. But that was just kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah. If any listeners have any thoughts on that, maybe there is some sort of build or some sort of exploit where you can get those 3 stacks just instantly guaranteed all the time, and who knows. Also, again, we'll probably say this multiple times, it's the very first day of PTS, so these numbers could definitely change over the course of the next several weeks. So, best name award for these new armor sets, is it True Sworn Fury.
What's your number 2? I'm curious.
Let's see. Not Drake's Rush. I kind of like Fool Killer's Ward.
Okay,
the heavy armor set from.
I think my next one is the Baron Zaldrus or Zaldrus.
It's a cool name, Zaldrus.
Yeah, I just like that one. Baron, cool title. Seems like that one probably looks cool.
So those are the new armor sets. We're just getting started. There's a lot more to talk about.
There's some stuff happening.
There are some things happening. I'm going to take a sip of water.
It's so funny that the live stream happens, and it's like you watch like the main event, and you're like, okay, there's some stuff happening. You know, that's pretty cool. You get the companion. That's neat. They're going into Blackwood. That seems cool. Kind of cool. They're bringing in Imperials. It's like, all right, this is where the Imperials have been hanging out, I guess.
And it's such a short presentation too.
Yeah.
Like the official thing, it's pretty short.
And then the after show or the after stream was like, wham!
Everything you needed, everything you want to know about everything.
Some serious stuff. It's like
let's just skip straight to that.
Yeah, like why didn't they talk about that at all? Jeez.
Yeah. So maybe the most significant thing with this update is the champion point system is getting a major update. This is something that they started talking about, I think, like 2 years ago, that they were planning to do a major overhaul to the champion point system, and then just total silence about that ever since, and we just haven't heard a word about it. And they said they've been working on this like basically all this time, and now they're ready to roll it out. I think it seems really cool, really interesting. I haven't had a chance to get my hands on it, even though PTS apparently went live today. I haven't been able to log into it all day long to actually check any of this stuff out. It just hasn't allowed me to log in. But from what they demonstrated, it seems interesting. So they have some goals for this new system that they are shooting for. One is to encourage what they call horizontal progression rather than vertical progression. And what they mean by that is as your character progresses over time, they want that to result in more options and more variety rather than simply more power. So that's one thing. There are going to be fewer passives on your character at a time, and that's going to help server performance. Although they did warn us to temper expectations. It's not going to be the thing that makes everything better. But it's going to help in it. So it is a performance-minded change as well. And then they also said they built it with future growth in mind. So then future updates, if they want to expand this into other things, they've built it in such a way where it's going to be easy for them to do that. So that's really cool. The UI looks similar but different. It's just kind of updated, more modern looking. It looks like a game that was developed in modern times rather than several years ago. And maybe one of the probably the most notable thing about this update is that now CP stars, you have slottable and unslottable CP stars. So there's a kind of a skill bar at the top of the screen, kind of like just like in your skill screen, like where you slot your normal skills. And some of your champion points, not all of them, there's different ones that work different ways, but some of them are slottable, and they're only active if you slot them. So that's kind of how they're limiting how many passives are going to be active on your character at a time, because a lot of them you can only have if you slot them, and there's only so many slots. I think that's actually really interesting. And also, just like with normal skills, you can slot and unslot things as much as you please. You don't have to respec all your champion points to do that.
A lot packed in there, right?
Yeah. Also, the CP cap has been raised from the current 810 to, what would you guess? I mean, I know you already know, but I would guess if they were going to raise it, I would have guessed maybe 1,000.
Did you?
That makes sense.
Did you have any like would you have ever guessed that it would have been above what your CP is?
No, no. My CP is like 1400 or something like that, which is that's really high. They're raising the cap to 3600, 3600, which I don't think I've ever seen anyone with that much CP.
Did you see also, you asked me this question when we were talking about it initially, they are raising, or they are adjusting the rate you earn CP to go with that level. Like, it makes me think I'm going to log in and it's like, wow, am I going to gain like 12 CP levels like a day now? Like,
that's interesting. Now, also an important thing to note about this though is that someone with 3600 champion points isn't necessarily going to be more powerful than someone with 1,000 champion points. Because of that slotting system, you're limited to how many of those things can even be active at a time. So it's really, and they describe this in the live stream, it really just amounts to more choice that you have going forward past a certain point, not more power.
Yeah. The biggest thing that stood out to me with this champion system update is, you know, that build diversity, you know, build focus, build diversity. People are going to, you know, and they mention this a lot, you know, CP has really been about just when you have CP, you get everything and it just makes your character kind of have everything. We joke about that all the time we're in Battlegrounds and it's nice because your character doesn't have everything. Whereas when you have CP, it's like, all right, everybody has sustained damage, max stats, like they kind of get it all. I think this is going to be awesome to help that. It's not going to be that way anymore. It's going to be more focused, build diversity with CP.
What I really like about this slottable, unslottable system is, you know, we use this dressing room add-on to like change loadouts, right? We can click a button and be like, this is my loadout for doing dungeons. Click another button. This is my loadout for doing quests, and it'll automatically swap out my gear and my skills and everything for that purpose. But you're always stuck with your champion points. I imagine that those types of add-ons are going to be able to incorporate this new slotting system with champion points so that you can now have a PvP setup versus a PvE setup, and your champion points can be changed to be appropriate. Yep. So, you know, I know a lot of characters, especially like console players, you know, you have your PvE character and you have your PvP character, and they're separate. This can make it a lot more possible to just have one character that does everything and they're perfectly well equipped for all of it, without having to respec and reallocate and all that. So that's pretty cool. Another cool thing, and I think these things are going to have significant impact on no CP PvP in particular, which is, Davies, that's our thing.
That's where we live.
So no longer will you get a 20% increase in your max stats for your first 300 champion points. If you're not aware, currently, whenever you spend a point into one of the green constellations, you get extra stamina. The red constellations gives you health, and the blue gives you magicka. So up to 300 champion points, you get extra stats, and it caps out at 20% at that 300 champion points, and then it stops happening past that. So with this update, that's no longer going to happen. But instead, they're going to compensate by giving those stats to your character's base stats. So your base character will now have 16,000 health rather than 8,744 before. And their magicka and stamina is going to be 12,000 instead of 7,958. So major increases to those base stats. And of course, that's before food and all of that. That's significant because, like with our builds, like that we do in Battlegrounds, you always just have to account for the fact that, okay, well, when I go into Battlegrounds, I'm going to lose a bunch of max stats because those champion points are being taken away. Now, there are going to be champion points, specific champion points that you can spend points into to increase your max magicka or max health or stamina, but you have to choose those specific stars. It's not just an automatic thing.
Yep.
Otherwise, those max stats are going to stay the same. Pretty cool.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think it's going to be huge for BGs. I mean, we're talking major stat increases in Battlegrounds.
Yeah, massive. I mean, almost double. Also, as a base thing, they're reducing your character's damage taken by 15%. And they say that, I guess that's something that you already get from champion points. I didn't realize that you just get bonus mitigation from champion points. But they're putting that as your character's base stat as well. So that's another thing that's going to come into play in no CP, PvP, and Battlegrounds that I think is going to be significant. And that's going to come into play big time with some of these armor changes that we're about to talk about. I think that's important to remember, that 15% base damage reduction as we talk about some of these armor changes here.
Yeah, that's going to be, and we'll talk about it more later when we kind of just talk about Battlegrounds. But the idea of some, reduced damage in Battlegrounds right now, that I like that.
I like the idea of taking just a flat 15% less damage in Battlegrounds across the board. I will take that.
I
Absolutely.
will take that.
Please. So let's talk about these armor changes. I think this actually might be the thing that I'm most interested in this patch. I'm just really, really curious to see how the meta shapes up. Like, I think this is the first thing in a long time, like first update that's happened in a long time that I've looked at and thought, like, I have no idea what my builds are going to be like.
I'm 100% with you. Like, this is, I have zero idea what the meta is going to be.
Yeah. And like, it seems like there's really going to be a ton of room for diversity and choice and a lot of viable options is what, honestly, how I'm picking up here.
Yeah.
So they're saying that they want to make a bigger distinction between the different armor types. They want to make it more like a paper, rock, scissors sort of thing and make it feel very different between wearing light armor versus heavy armor versus medium. And you'll have like very specific reasons for choosing those armor types. They've added these new bonuses and penalties to the different armor types. So I'll go through these really quick. Light armor bonuses reduces your damage taken from magical attacks. So like flame, magic damage, frost damage, shock damage. So each piece of light armor decreases that type of damage by 1%. So if you have 7 pieces, that's 7%. Reduces the cost of roll dodge by 3% per piece. That's interesting. That's a new thing. Increases your movement speed while sneaking by 5% per piece. So I guess that's a cool thing for mag blades. Mm-hmm. Reduces the cost of break free by 5% per piece and the cost of bash by 3% per piece. So those are the new light armor bonuses that are just added in addition to the existing passives. I'm pretty sure all the existing passives are still all there.
Yep.
And then, so there's also a list of penalties that you get for wearing light armor. Each piece of light armor increases your damage taken from martial attacks by 1%. Martial attacks are like physical, poison, disease, and bleed damage. So you take additional damage from those, 1% additional damage from those types of attacks when you wear, for each piece of light armor. Now remember, your base character is taking 15% less damage overall, period. So that's going to balance out quite a bit already. Also increases the cost of block by 3% per piece of armor worn. Flavor-wise, I feel like that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then decreases your damage done with bash by 1% per piece. I think those things make a lot of sense.
Mm. And we'll get into all of these, but I feel like the biggest thing with these that I really get the feel of is that they really were like, okay, what if you're wearing light armor, if you're wearing robes, what's going to happen? And so it's like, it makes sense. And I do think that that's a really cool aspect of this is it's like, you're going to be lighter, it's going to be easier for you to roll dodge. You weigh less. It's real light, it's light armor. It, reduces the cost of break fee. You're not weighed down as much.
I do like the emphasis on mobility is really nice.
Yep. And then taking more damage from martial, if someone's going to hit you, you're not going to be protected as much.
You're just wearing clothes. It just seems odd to me that, okay, if my character's naked, he'll take less damage from swords than if he's wearing light armor. Like, that just seems odd.
I almost wish, because I thought about that too, is that it is weird that you put on light armor and somehow you take more damage. I almost wish that the 15% damage taken would be a passive that only kicks in like as soon as you have armor equipped.
Yeah, something like that. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, it kind of does and doesn't make sense, I guess, at the same time.
But no, I mean, grand scheme of things, nobody should be running around with no armor on. So
sure,
don't do that.
So yeah, you take less damage from magic attacks, more damage from physical attacks, basically. Medium armor. So medium armor, there actually are no penalties. It's only bonuses, but they say that they're not as extreme bonuses as the others because there are no penalties. So it should kind of balance out, I think. So the bonuses reduces the cost of sprint by 1% per piece worn. And I was asking about this earlier. Remember, the existing passives are all there. So the athletics passive that reduces your roll dodge cost and increases your sprint speed, that's on top of this. So now you're additionally getting sprint cost reduction, 1% per piece. Reduces the cost of sneak by 5% per piece. Reduce the cost of block by 3%. Reduces your damage taken from AoE attacks by 2% for 2 seconds after you roll dodge. Kind of interesting for a roly-poly build.
Yep.
And then increase your movement speed by 2% while immune to crowd control. That's really interesting. So break free out of a fossilize, and you have 2% extra movement speed. I guess per piece of armor.
Yeah. You're really booking it. Here's my guess from this. Medium armor, I think, is already your favorite.
Totally.
I think that is going to continue to be the case.
I think you were correct. Moving on.
And I think there's something to be said that medium, they said that the bonuses from it are not as strong as the bonuses from the other two, but there's no negative to medium. And that is very appealing to me. Like, no negatives, no penalties that you have to worry about.
Yeah, and the existing medium armor passives, in my opinion, are really, really good. I like them a lot. So this on top of that, yeah, I'm absolutely going to take it. I don't have to worry about taking additional damage from this or less damage from that. I just take the same amount of damage from everyone, and I just need to worry about moving fast and trying to avoid that damage, period. Medium armor's looking really good. Honestly, I think light armor's looking really good too. Like the more emphasis on mobility seems really cool.
Yep.
And increasing damage from martial attacks, we're going to talk about this in a minute. There's going to be ways to deal with that. Definitely. Heavy armor. So the heavy armor bonuses reduces your damage taken from martial attacks by 1% per piece worn. So it's basically the inverse of magicka, right?
Yep.
Less physical damage, but you take more magic damage. Increases the amount of damage blocked by 1% per piece, increase the damage done with bash by 3% per piece, and reduce your damage taken while immune to crowd control by 2% per piece. And then the penalties, like I just said, you take additional 1% magic damage per piece, reduces the movement speed bonus of sprint by 1% per piece. That's actually pretty interesting, and flavor-wise makes perfect sense. You're putting on these giant pieces of metal. Of course, you're going to run slower.
Yep.
So that's actually really interesting, and I wonder how many people are going to continue using heavy armor's been really popular in PvP and still is for a long time. I wonder how much that's going to affect that.
Yep.
Increase the cost of roll dodge by 3% per piece worn. Increase the size of your detection area while sneaking by 10% per piece worn. So yeah, you're just going to be this hulking, loud, clunking, just knocking over tables and chairs every time you enter a room.
So this armor change is interesting me. It's interesting for me because right now, my favorite type of armor, I would say, is heavy armor. And I'm not alone on that. I think that's, like you said, especially in PvP and Battlegrounds, heavy armor is very popular right now. After going through this and kind of thinking about it, and it's just first initial thoughts. It's not, it's came out today. They talked about it yesterday. But I think that heavy armor, my initial thought on this is heavy armor is now probably my least favorite armor.
Wow.
I think it's, I do like for like a stamina build, like my stamDK build. I like the fact that his martial attacks are going to be more, and he leaps a lot, so I don't really care if he's slower. But all the kind of the bonuses to me are not like the increasing damage with bash, like in Battlegrounds and with my character. I don't use bash a whole lot, and that's kind of a like they made that kind of an emphasis. That's a big part of the bash with heavy armor compared to the negatives, like taking away my sprint speed and in a lot of like stamina characters right now, and even with my stamDK, this kind of worries me. The increase your damage taken from magical attacks, that's concerning. There's already a struggle, I feel like, with a slow stamina kind of tanky build.
Oh, yeah.
It's already a struggle right now in a battleground. If you've got like a really good magicka user that's just hitting you hard, it's already a struggle to get to them. And this one only makes it seem like that's going to be even trickier.
And there's plenty of really strong magicka builds out there right now. That Vadisran staff is everywhere. So that's a pretty severe penalty. Well, it seems like it. There are mitigating factors that we're going to get into.
It's small percentages too.
Yeah, it's very small percentages. So let's just get into it right now. So for one, it is very small percentages. You're taking extra damage, extra 1% damage per piece worn. So if you're wearing 7 pieces heavy, that's 7% additional damage from magicka users. And remember, in no CP, you're already taking 15% less damage from everyone already. Yep. So it's already kind of mitigated just from that.
Yep.
But I think what mitigates it even more is this thing right here. All armor passives now scale per piece of armor equipped rather than some of them granting bonuses while wearing 5 pieces or more. So I think that one thing right there is the thing that blows the lid off of everything.
Yes.
Because any concern you have about any of these armor types, you can actually just mix and match as much as you like. Yes. You don't want to take extra magic damage disproportionate to physical damage. You can just wear equal pieces light and heavy armor to balance that out. Like you could run, like I think probably a common type that might end up happening on some of my builds maybe could end up being like 3 light, 3 medium, 1 heavy. So I'm getting like the mobility bonuses from both light and medium, and then some of the stuff from heavy. There's no incentive to run 5 of something unless that's just the number that I want to get the passives that I want. It's so I think that right there is going to take care of a lot of concerns about like taking extra damage here or taking less damage there or whatever. You can just kind of mix and match those armor types until it's dialed into where you like. And also remembering that you have that 15% damage reduction at base anyway. That's the thing I think makes this so super cool, and a thing that I think shakes up this meta so much more than anything. What's kind of like right now, I kind of have it in mind. Like, okay, my stamina characters, I like them to run 7 medium. That's just kind of how I like them to do it. And then my magicka characters do 5 light, 1 medium, 1 heavy. And that's just kind of, I know that's how they do it. I'm going to have to rethink all of that. And I bet there's probably not going to be one single formula that fits all my characters. It's probably like each individual character is going to be like very specifically dialed in a very specific way.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, this one to me, this part is what screams to me like I have no idea what the meta is going to be. And I think you just hit the nail on the head there, is that I think it's going to be different for each character. I think the meta is going to be, it depends on the character, whether it's, you could even do it, you could still do 5-1-1 or things like that. So, and then the other part to this that I think is interesting is that how much more appealing are craftable sets now? Oh yeah. You can choose, craftable sets are what's going to lead you to a 4-3 setup or a 2-2-3. These dungeon sets that are set where if you want that set, you got to have 5 of a trait. They're a little less appealing to me now.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Like I really super can't wait to see like all the theory crafting that happens, I think we're going to see some weird builds. I think this is opening the door big time for some really cool hybrid builds. I think there's still some more changes need to happen to the game before hybrids can really be valuable, but I think this is a major step in that direction.
Yeah, we're getting closer and closer bit by bit.
Yeah. So cool. You could run 4-3. You could do like 4 light, 3 heavy, 2 heavy, 2 medium, 3 light. I mean,
the
go
2-2-3
nuts.
setup is the craziest to me. Like,
Yeah.
and that sounds good to me. Like 2 light, 2 heavy, and 3 medium to me.
Yeah.
Like that sounds real good to me.
Yeah, it's like so hard for my brain to even wrap around. Like I still like I'm instinctively like, well, no, I gotta have 5. Like, but no, I don't actually.
No, you don't actually.
Yeah, so that's really neat. I think that with the champion points system, those 2 things there combined, man, we're gonna have a lot of theory crafting, a lot of numbers to crunch. I think it's gonna be fun. A lot of really fun, cool stuff to talk about in the coming weeks.
Oh yeah.
And they've made some changes to some of the existing armor passives as well. I'll try to move through these pretty quick. But light armor, the concentration passive, now gives you 939 spell penetration per piece of light armor rather than 4884 while wearing 5 pieces or more. So that's an example there. It's just per piece rather than having to hit that 5. Prodigy now gives you 1% spell critical per piece of light armor rather than 10% with 5 or more. Spell warding gives you increases the amount of spell resistance granted per rank to 726 up from 363, so just a buff to that passive. Medium armor, the agility passive gives you 2% weapon damage per piece of medium armor rather than a 15% increase when you're at 5 or more. Dexterity, decrease the amount of weapon critical granted to 1% per piece, down from 1.5% per piece, so a little bit of a nerf there. Heavy armor, rapid mending passive now increases your healing taken by 1% for every piece of heavy armor worn rather than 8% with 5 or more. So that's going to be a nerf no matter how you slice it.
Yep.
Resolve, decrease the amount of armor granted per piece of heavy armor worn to 343 instead of 363. Very minor nerf there. Revitalize, this passive now increases the resources restored from your fully charged heavy attacks by 4% per piece of heavy armor rather than 25% with 5 or more. That's a lot of numbers. I know that's kind of dull hearing a lot of numbers read off like that, but basically just illustrating that the 5 or more thing no longer required at all, and unless that's just the number you're shooting for, but otherwise there's no need for it.
Yeah. Well, and kind of like I said in the beginning, really the best way to understand this armor thing to me and the changes is just think of actual armor. Light armor, robes and stuff, not going to protect you a whole lot, but can help you a lot magic wise. Medium armor, sneaking, rogue like, and then heavy armor, clunky, slow, but you're going to be, you're kind of tanky. Like it really, each type of armor now really focuses on what the actual armor is, more so than ever.
Yep. I think it's going to be really cool. I think it's going to take some getting used to, and I think a lot of people are maybe going to grumble a little bit and begrudgingly have to respect their characters or whatever. But you and me, Davius, this is we get excited about this stuff.
Yeah,
we can't wait for it.
Can't more changes coming.
And they seem like positive changes. It doesn't just seem like change for its own sake. It seems like good positive changes that I think are going to result in build diversity, a lot more viable, cool, interesting, wacky builds. So yeah, I'm into it. I'm definitely into it.
We always joke that the game knows what it's doing because me and you were just about finished with all of our characters built there. We were just about all right, I think I've got these where we want to, and then boom, this happens, and it's all right, here we go, let's start this over, and I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, I know,
I'm
man.
ready.
It's so wild because you're right. I've been spending this whole patch getting my characters kind of updated for this patch, getting them really dialed in, and it sounds like a lot of that's just going to go right out the window here pretty soon. But who knows? Maybe it's not going to be totally on its head. I don't know.
We'll see.
Another little quality of life thing. They're giving us advanced stats on your character screen. It's just a much more detailed readout of your character stats. There's a add-on called, I think, Harvin's Extended Stats that I've been using for a long time. It's been a great add-on. I've been thankful for it, but I'm probably going to get rid of it now because it's just going to be built in.
This seems like such a simple thing, and it is such a small thing, but this might be one of the things I'm most excited about. If you actually see, we'll see more and more of what the actual stats listed, but we always talk about the build editor we use. This is advanced stats. Like they
Very
give
detailed.
you very detailed. And we always, everybody that listens know how much me and Kat love tinkering and editing and working on these builds and strategizing. This is this is so nice to have this in game now. I am pumped to get these stats exactly where I want them to be.
And to have it in the game, and it's of a detail that if you've ever used the UESP build editor, which we refer to all the time, it's on that level of detail. Like just every possible stat, like how much your block costs, how much your sprint costs, how much frost damage do you take, how much frost damage do you do, all that kind of stuff. And it's neat to have it in the game because to see those kinds of stats, what Davius and I have always done in the past is we go to this build editor on the internet and like replicate our build there and then see the stats and hope that they're somewhat accurate to what's actually in the game. So now we can just straight up see it. It's going to be really nice.
Yeah, really excited about that.
So that's a nice little quality of life thing. Another quality of life thing. I think there's going to be a lot of quality of life this year, honestly. Which it
seems like that's going to be kind of the big focus.
Yep. They've said as much, and they're already kind of making good on some of that. So you're going to have the option to fast travel to the outside of your home. They said that they know that a lot of people just like to use their houses for the purpose of fast traveling. So that to just give you one less load screen to go through, you can now just port to the outside of your home, and then there you are. That's pretty cool.
This, I have to say, obviously I own the home in Eastmarch.
Sure.
I can, free travel to Eastmarch now. And I use my home a lot, but sometimes I'll pay, the little bit of gold because it's like, I don't want to go into that loading screen.
Right.
Free
you
travel.
Have to load into your home and then another loading screen to go out the door. Yeah.
Free travel to Eastmarch. I mean, just beautiful. Just beautiful. It's poetry.
Very nice. And just a nice little thing that I don't think many people, I never even heard anyone ask for that, but it's just like a nice little thoughtful thing. It was easy to add. Yeah. I'm looking forward to, I think there's going to be a bunch of little minor touches like that. This is going to be just nice,
Yeah.
So combat and ability changes. There's some interesting stuff here. I don't know if there's anything earth-shattering, but we'll see as we get into it. So for one, gaining resistances for a particular damage type no longer grants immunity to its respective status effect, and they've adjusted racial passives to compensate for that. But basically, nobody is immune to any status effects anymore.
Yeah.
You can have resistance to a particular damage type, but that just means you take less damage from it. You can still be inflicted with the status effect, though. In addition to that, there are some new status effects. So when you deal bleed damage, that can apply the hemorrhaging status, which gives a small 4-second dot and applies minor mangle to the target, which I think that reduces their maximum health, I think is what that does.
Yeah, I think that's what that one does.
Physical damage can apply the sundered status. Again, it applies a small 4-second dot and applies minor breach. And magic damage has a chance to apply the overcharged status. Again, another small 4-second dot, and it applies minor magic steal. That's pretty cool, actually. So any magic damage, I feel like I always need to clarify, magic damage is a specific damage type. It's not just something that costs magic. It specifically deals magic damage.
We've all had that moment where we go, oh.
Yeah, the moment you realize War Maiden isn't nearly as good as you thought it was, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So it can apply minor magic steal, though. That's pretty cool, actually, I think.
Yeah, really helpful.
There's also some adjustments to some class abilities. I'm actually not going to get into those at all because they're mostly kind of minor. I don't know. Some of them are sort of interesting, but just for the sake of time, I'm not going to get into all of it. I don't think any of them really significantly impacts the way you play your character or anything like that.
I 100% agree with that. I don't think any of them are just going to massively have an impact.
Yeah, just adjusting some numbers and little things like that here and there. So feel free to check out those patch notes if you want those details. We're just going to skip over it. We can talk about some of these weapon ability changes, and starting off, maybe the maybe the crown jewel of the PTS. Snipe getting nerfed, man. So I guess the cast time was buffed a little bit. It's a 0.8 second cast time instead of a 1 second cast time. But the damage has been reduced by 21%. Pretty significant.
Yeah, I think Snipe's going to kind of become more of this kind of regular spammable ability, and it's not going to be this heavy hit ability that we've come to know it as.
Yeah.
Unless you get that point blank snipe.
Right. Still waiting
Still
for
out
it.
there.
That's bad. I'm happy to see that. I think a lot of people are going to be happy to see that. Snipe,
Yes.
long overdue, getting nerfed. Dual wield. There's a lot of kind of animation refinements that they talked about. Also, the twin blade and blunt passive has been reworked a little bit. So axes no longer give you a chance to apply a bleed. Instead, they increase your critical damage and healing done by 4% per axe. So possibly 8% if you're holding 2 axes. It's interesting. I've always thought of axes as these things that cause bleeds. So it's weird to think of it as this thing that now increases crit damage and healing. It's like
I have some comments on this one. I'll let you get through the rest of the weapons, but I've got some comments on axes specifically with this.
Okay. Yeah, that one seems odd to me. Daggers now grant 3.4% critical chance per dagger rather than 5%. So that's a nerf. Maces now grant 1650 armor penetration per mace rather than simply ignoring 10% of the target's physical resistance. I did some kind of quick napkin math earlier. That's a little bit of a nerf right there. Mm-hmm. And swords now grant 142 weapon damage per sword rather than increasing damage done by 6%. I actually like that because that's going to help your healing as well.
Yeah,
that's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, that's a good. So kind of going back into this, I actually like all these changes, but maybe the axe one a little bit selfishly. But the daggers, maces, and swords, those make sense. They seem to be almost the same abilities, but like the swords one's really nice because now we actually get to see that in our stats. You know, that damage done, it was just kind of like, well, I know that that's there. Now I'm actually going to get to see the stats. Same thing with the maces. So I like all those changes. Just from a stat perspective and being able to see it easier. This axe one kind of blows my mind because when I read this, the first thing that I thought of, Davius is my main character. He's full heals, full support. I'm contemplating running dual wield axes on his front bar.
Yeah, and you're always complaining about magicka builds being stuck with stabs, but here's a perfectly good excuse to use axes on your healer.
He's a support build. If I run dual wield axes, he's a Templar, so I can do regeneration on my back bar with a heal bar, but 2 powered axes dual wield on the front bar with the Templar heal abilities, like that's gonna be.
Yeah, and your light and heavy attacks don't matter because you use that Psijic Order ability that turns your light and heavy attacks into heals. Yep. Dude, you got to do that.
Yeah, so Davius is going to be... And the one thing I will say, I don't know how much I think a healer holding 2 axes in each hand makes sense.
Well, what if you did a single 2-handed axe? Because let's get into the 2-handers here.
We'll go right into that.
So the heavy weapons passive was basically given the same treatment. So a 2-handed axe now gives you 8% critical damage and healing done. So you could just do that.
Yeah.
Maces now grant 3,300 armor penetration rather than ignoring 20% of the target's physical resistance. A slight nerf right there, I think that's going to amount to. And swords, a 2-handed sword will give you 284 weapon and spell damage rather than increasing damage done by 6%. So now I wonder if they made a typo because dual wield swords, it says grants you 142 weapon damage per sword, and 2-hander gives you weapon and spell damage. So I wonder if dual wield actually gives you both as well. And
I think that has to be a typo because they've kind of that's kind of a change they made in the past where really weapons kind of give you both. Yeah. Now, and so I bet that's just a typo.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. I feel like we are just ever inching our way closer to like really freeing up weapon choices for Magicka builds. We're not quite there yet.
Love it.
We're inching our way there. So that's all the weapon stuff that I wanted to talk about. Werewolf. I think werewolves are getting nerfed a little bit here. So Hircine's Fortitude, which is their main burst heal ability, reduced the health and stamina recovery cap of this morph to 333 instead of 666. So that's a pretty significant sustained nerf there, I would say.
Yep.
Savage Strength, this passive now grants major resolve rather than increasing your armor by 10,000. And they say they did that to tone down some of the staggering defenses that werewolves could obtain with little to no effort. That right there, I think, is going to be significant.
Huge.
That's significant.
I actually like this for two reasons. A little selfishly, and, right now I run... what's your favorite monster set?
Mighty Chudan.
Mighty Chudan.
Yep, get rid of that now.
On my werewolf to get... Yeah, and so I actually... Obviously, my werewolf's pretty tanky, but I'm actually excited to get rid of Chudan, because that was, for a werewolf, that was kind of the one buff that they were missing. And so now I get to kind of change it up with the werewolf and get more out of that. I know he's not going to be as tanky, but I'm
they're
actually
too
kind of
survivable. This is a good change.
And going against werewolves, like they're too tanky right now. And so even though it's going to kind of be a nerf for my werewolf, I'm excited to do a little something different. I mean, how many werewolves out there were probably wearing Mighty Chudan? So
yeah. So I think that's a good change. Sustained nerf and armor nerf to werewolves. Good change. Fighters Guild, Banish the Wicked passive has been changed a little bit. So now it grants you 3 ultimate whenever you kill an enemy while you have a Fighters Guild ability slotted, rather than restoring a 9 ultimate whenever you kill an undead, Daedra, or werewolf. So before you didn't have to have anything slotted at all. It didn't matter. You just had to kill one of those types of things. Now it's when you kill anyone, but you have to have a Fighter's Guild ability slotted. So could potentially result in more or less ultimate, depending on the situation, I guess.
Yeah, I think in a PvE aspect, I think this is going to be a lot more ultimate. Those when you go and take out those mobs of like 15 people, that's a lot of ultimate now. I don't think this has really much of, if any, change in PvP, but maybe in Imperial City.
It's going to affect some build decisions, and it's going to affect like whether or not I actually put points into this passive or not. Because if I'm not slotting Dawnbreaker or Camo Hunter, then I'm probably not going to put points in this passive.
Yeah, so. Very true.
But by the same token, this is like an extra incentive to slot one of those skills as well. So it just factors in there. For the Alliance War, this is really interesting. The Continuous Attack passive. So let me pull this up and read what this passive does.
I'm glad you're going to do this, because I had to have you explain this one to me a little bit, because I needed your help. I was like, all right, now I'm trying to figure out what's happening here.
So the current version of the Continuous Attack passive increases your weapon damage and spell damage by 10% and your magicka and stamina recovery by 20% for 10 minutes after you capture a lumber mill, farm, mine, or keep. So it's a thing in Cyrodiil, right? It's like this temporary buff that you get whenever you capture one of those things. In addition to that, Continuous Attack will now always grant Major Gallop when you purchase the passive. So those buffs that I just read off, those are temporary after you capture one of those resources or a keep or something like that. But in addition to that, you also have Major Gallop at all times whenever you have that passive unlocked.
That's huge.
That's amazing. So Major Gallop, that's your mount buff speed, right? Yep. That's the reason we use Rapids. And usually we use an add-on that slots and unslots Rapids automatically whenever you mount. And it's really, really nice, and it makes you run really fast. Not going to be necessary anymore, because as long as you have this passive unlocked, that's just how fast your mount goes all the time.
Yeah, that's why I had to have you explain this one too, because I couldn't believe how, like, this is a quality of life change here. how
Big
amazing
time.
it is to just always have Major Gallop. Like, I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, and not too long ago, they moved the Rapid's ability down the skill line a little bit, so it's no longer the first thing you unlock. And that was the thing that a lot of people were not happy about, that because a lot of people, it's the only PvP skill they want. They just want that so they can run around fast on the overworld. So that alleviates that completely. It's just the first passive, unlock that. Your mount is now super fast all the time. You don't have to slot a skill and unslot a skill and all that stuff. Really, really nice. So then the Rapid's ability no longer grants Major Gallop since it's no longer necessary. So all it really does is gives Major Expedition for, I think, 8 seconds to you and your group. I think they're going to have to add something else to Rapids.
Did
at some
Rapids
point.
just become the most unused skill of the game?
Yeah, I think they're going to have to do something else with the Rapids because, I went from like one of the first skills that everyone should get like as soon as you hit level 10 to no reason to get it at all, really, actually.
I think at minimum it's got to go back to, because it used to give you Major Expedition for as long as you got Major Gallop, right? You didn't used to get Major Expedition for like a really long time.
30 whole seconds.
I don't know if it needs to be
combat, but
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it needs to be that long, but maybe something like that again. Like make it give Major Expedition for longer than 8 seconds.
Yeah, I could see that. Or give it some extra like secondary buff or something. I gotta think they're gonna do something there because that's a big thing to take away from that ability to not give it anything back at all.
Exactly.
So those are all of those. Some changes to the races, and it's mostly just stuff related to the fact that nobody is immune to status effects anymore, period. And that includes races. So Argonians no longer immune to the disease status effect, but their resistance to poison damage is double what it was before. The resourceful passive, that potion passive that they're known for, in addition to getting resources whenever you drink a potion, you also just get an extra 1,000 max stamina whenever you unlock that passive. So that's nice, a little something extra for Argonians. But the sacrifice for that is they nerfed that potion passive just a little bit. You get 3,125 resources restored instead of 4,000, which is what it is currently. A little bit of a nerf there, but you get that max stamina, which is really nice. So,
yeah.
Breton, no idea why we needed to buff Bretons.
What is happening here? I read this and I was like, surely I read this wrong. Like,
yeah, increase the spell attunement passive, increase the magic recovery up to 130 instead of 100. Bretons already have the most insane sustain of any race, period.
You know what they need a little more of? A little more sustain.
You know what Bretons are really struggling with? They're just not sustaining quite enough. A little bit more. 30 more recovery ought to do it.
Gosh. Oh jeez.
Yeah,
and every Breton vampire in misform rejoices.
Yeah. God. Yeah, just live there. Just live in misform. Never come out. Dark Elf, the dynamic passive, increased the max magic and stamina to 1910 instead of 1875. That's really nice. And then Resist Flame, no longer immune to the burning status effect, but you do have double the flame resistance you had before, 4620 instead of 2310. High Elves, the elemental talent passive now grants weapon and spell damage instead of just spell damage. The spell recharge passive, reduces the restore on this passive to 625 instead of 640. Very minor nerf there. And it now works from any ability rather than just class ability. So you get resource return when you use any ability with a cooldown. Imperials. I think Imperials, this is kind of 50% an Imperial expansion that we're getting this year, and I think the buff that they're getting here kind of reflects that. The red diamond passive no longer restores health, magicka, and stamina whenever you deal direct damage. But the flat 3% ability cost reduction across the board is increased to 6% ability cost reduction. So that's basically like having Battlefield Acrobat equipped at all times. And this applies to all abilities. That includes roll dodging and blocking and sprinting and breaking free. Those things count as well. That's really nice.
It kind of makes Battlefield Acrobat kind of pretty great on an Imperial.
A 12% cost reduction to all those things, plus your active skills as well.
Pretty wild.
Ultimates counts for ultimates.
Oof.
Yeah.
Love that.
Cool.
But,
can't make an Imperial. What are you going to make an Imperial?
Yeah, what am I going to make something not an Ord? I mean, come
on. Khajiit, the feline ambush passive, increased the critical damage and healing done from this passive up to 12% instead of 10%. And the Lunar Blessings passive increased the max health, magicka, and stamina up to 915 instead of 825. So a little bit of buffs to Khajiit, which I think is much needed. I don't know if it's enough, but maybe. Nord, here we go.
All right.
Davius, you're getting nerfed a little bit here, I think.
What's going on? To the developer that listens to the podcast, like you missed us. You missed the boat here, all right? What happened? Where'd we go wrong?
So the resist frost passive, you no longer are immune to the chilled status effect, but like the others, you have double the resistance to frost damage as you did before. And then the rugged passive reduced the armor granted to 2,600 instead of 3,960. That seems like a fairly significant nerf right there.
How are you gonna buff Breton and nerf Nord? All right, what's going on? What's happening here?
Yeah, really. Nord is a very strong PvP race, I gotta say. I don't know if they seem well balanced actually. I don't know if they need to be nerfed, but I guess the developer thought they did need to be.
Killing me.
Yeah.
I hope to the developer, I hope he gets that fixed next patch notes update. We'll get that. Yeah. We'll get that fixed up.
Yeah, we still got like 6 weeks or so. Orcs have changed around a little bit. The Brawny passive now only gives you 1,000 max stamina instead of 2,000. I think honestly that is a good thing. Orcs are way overpacked with stats compared to basically everyone else. If you're a stamina build, I feel like it's hard to pass on Orc when you add up all that you're getting there and compare that to all the other stamina races. It's tough to pick anything else. So bringing that down to 1,000, I think makes good sense. Swift Warrior, the passive now grants weapon and spell damage rather than just weapon damage. Kind of cool. Unflinching Rage now heals for 2125 health when you deal damage once every 4 seconds, rather than 600 health when you deal damage with a weapon attack once every 4 seconds. So a much bigger heal with a much easier proc condition. That's really nice.
How are you gonna buff Orc and nerf? What's happening here? What are we doing?
Well, hey, they got 1,000 less stamina. Okay.
Oh my goodness, and that heal is ridiculous now. That's crazy.
They said right here it can no longer crit.
Oh yeah. Well,
so
there you go.
Balanced.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they still have their mobility, I just choose them for the mobility, honestly.
Well, now they have a built-in health recovery now, basically. Yeah. Like, all right, we're going to knock down 1,000 stamina, but, we'll give them a legit health recovery now.
Yeah. It's pretty nice. 2125 every 4 seconds. That's not huge, but it'll be, stacked on, if you have other layers of healing going on, that'll be a little something extra for sure. Red Guard... I don't know. They're buffed a little bit. It's still not nearly enough, man. Red Guard needs some serious love. Adrenaline Rush increased the stamina restored from this passive to 1,005, up from 950. And the passive now procs on any damage done rather than direct damage. And I can't remember, the cooldown's like 4 or 5 seconds on that. So I don't think it really amounts to a super significant thing. Red Guard is supposed to be, in my mind, they're supposed to be stamina Bretons, right? Like they are the kings of stamina sustain, and I just don't think that's really the case for them right now.
Yeah, they really should make them more just kind of the opposite of Bretons.
Yeah, just copy paste the Breton passives and change all the words to stamina, and we're fine.
Yeah.
Wood Elf, the Hunter's Eye passive, movement speed and armor penetration granted from this passive no longer require you to roll dodge, and instead are permanent effects. So you have that extra movement speed and penetration at all times, but it's less. You get 5% movement speed instead of 10%, and the penetration is now 950 instead of 1500. I actually preferred it the old way. I'm spamming roll dodge all the time anyway. I would rather have the more penetration, the faster movement speed that requires a roll dodge rather than just having less but permanent. So I don't love that change. I have a couple of Wood Elves that are probably not going to be happy about this, but whatever, it's fine.
Yeah. To sum up the races, everybody go and switch to Breton and Orc. Oh wait. You guys
already are.
You already are Breton and Orcs.
Yeah, everybody switch.
Yeah,
gosh. That's funny. One more. The Wood Elf Resist Affliction passive, no longer immune to the poison status effect, but again, double the resistance to poison damage. So that's all the race stuff, mostly related to that status effect stuff with some other adjustments here and there. Yeah, you're right, man. Orc not nerfed enough. Redguard not buffed enough. Why a Breton buff at all? Even though it's just 30 recovery. I mean, that's 15 magic per second. It's nothing, but still unnecessary. Period.
Yeah. I'm a little confused on it. We got time. We'll see.
Yeah, lots of time for things to shake out. Let's see here. In general, crit set bonuses across the board throughout the game have been reduced down to 657 instead of 833. So that's 3% versus 3.8%. So any armor set in the game that gives a crit bonus on its 2 through 4 piece bonuses that has been standardized at 833 crit up to this point, it's going to be reduced down to 657. They gave us a heads up on this several months ago, right? Like they wrote up a big article. Crit nerfs are coming. Get ready. And there've been a few already. This is just another one. They're just not done, taking crit out of the game quite yet. Pretty much. Yeah. They listed off basically all the sets that get affected. Not necessary for us to read them off. Just every crit set has had that value changed.
I actually like that sheet. When they first talked about it, they kind of said that if you're going to have a crit build, they want people to more focus that into their build and then actually invest in it, where people just kind of accidentally ended up with great crit. So
every medium armor, as it is right now, every medium armor build has a ton of crit pretty much.
Yeah, so I actually like this. I think it's, once again, it allows for more build diversity. I think it's cool that if you're going to have a crit build, then you got to invest into it and kind of go down that route. So I think it's a good thing in the long run.
Yeah, totally. Although it's also further incentive for people to just use Malakath in PvP as well.
That's the negative. Oof.
So we'll see. I don't know. I'm kind of fingers crossed, hoping that there will be some sort of Malakath nerf birth.
It sounds like you got hit by someone with Malakath.
Yeah. I'm hoping that Crimson Twilight, Vatishran Destro staff. Honestly, I don't think the Vatishran staff is going to get nerfed. It's too new. I think they're going to let that fly. But maybe Crimson could get nerfed. Maybe.
Malakath, Crimson. Engine Guardian. Ugh.
Oh, Engine Guardian. Just delete it. Ugh. Just make the little dude untargetable is what we need there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Also, Malakath. I think all that needs to happen with Malakath is just it needs to only apply to your active abilities, not proc sets. I think that would fix it right there too.
Yeah, I think you're right, and that would make kind of sense theme wise. Like it's. When you get an idea of what it is, it's like, all right, this is like a heavy, hard-hitting, brutal person. It shouldn't apply to these proc sets. If you're going to use Malakath, it should be focused like...
It's like your character should be animating and like...
Yeah, like a DK,
someone,
like a two-hander DK. Malakath being like that,
Yeah. I expect at some point in the future... that's going to happen. Like they maybe even have it on the calendar at some point, like where they plan on doing that. And they're just letting us have our fun for now. I think that would be the easy thing to do there. Make a lot of people happy. They reworked a few existing armor sets in the game. I'm not going to go through them all, but a couple to note. The Adept Rider set now permanently grants Major Gallop at all times and Major Expedition at all times when worn. Not a big deal. I mean, especially with that new Assault passive that gives you Major Gallop at all times anyway. But I just thought this was worth mentioning because this was such a useless set before.
Yeah.
What this did before, it gave you Major Evasion while mounted. And then when you dismount, lose the Major Evasion, but you deal AoE damage at that moment. And then, of course, you're in combat, so you can't. It's not like you can remount and do it again. It's just the dumbest idea for a set ever. And now at least there's like a use for it. Like, you don't want to unlock the Alliance War passive to get Gallop. Here's a set that'll give it to you, and it also gives you Major Expedition. That's cool.
And they even I think there was a developer note on this one. They kind of even admitted, like, we understand this is not going to be like a major used set, but they've made this change to kind of have this set in mind. As this is kind of like a new player, beginner, low level set. Like this is something to help you get around quicker when you're.
I think it's craftable, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it's a craftable set. So go craft you a set of this so you can kind of get around quicker.
Yeah, it was just absolutely no use case for it whatsoever previously, and there never had been at any point in that set's life. It was, I remember first time seeing that in the patch notes, just like cracking up laughing, like what in the world is this thing?
What is this thing?
Now it at least does have a use for someone out there. Surely it'll get equipped by someone.
Yeah, I mean, if you're leveling up a character, I could see a 5-piece set of this crafted with training, throw it on a character, low level. I could see that working.
And Celine's was changed. I'm actually probably going to end up using this on my stamDK now because the one thing that was keeping me from using it is gone now. So it no longer has the 15% proc chance. It's now guaranteed to proc. I didn't want to use this on my stamDK because her damage was already so incredibly high that I figured by the time that 15% proc chance kicks in, my target's already dead by that point. So I feel like it would get wasted a lot of the time. But now, guaranteed to proc as soon as I gap close them, basically. And basically what she does, gap close, fossilize. So they're just going to be sitting there taking that guaranteed proc. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to be using that now. They reduced the damage to 11,754 instead of 13,364. Makes total sense now that it's guaranteed proc. Still very strong.
Yeah, still very hard hitting. Yeah, I mean, it has, with the increased cooldown and the reduced damage, I still think you take away that proc chance. Celine is
I missed the cooldown. Increase the cooldown to 6 seconds instead of 4 seconons.
I still think that I'm going to end up probably using this set on one of my characters as well. I mean, this is it's a really, really strong set. Celine's been kind of making a comeback in BGs, and I think this is only going to kind of lead to seeing more of it.
Oh, we're going to see a lot of Celines. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's a hard hitting bear right there.
Hits really hard, especially if you have good CC where you can make sure someone sits there and takes that hit. Like honestly, my stamDK, she's been using Bloodspawn this whole time, but I don't like Bloodspawn on her because everything else about her build is like all about being as viciously, damaging as possible. Like everything else that she has is all about cranking up the damage so much, and then she has this one defensive monster set, which I know you got to have defense, but I think of this build as a build that I only play in pre-mades with a healer. So I'm not worried about survivability with her. I just want maximum damage. So I think I'm going to do that. I think she's going to get Celine's now, and that's going to work well.
I'm interested to see. I don't know if it's work, but I'm very interested on a stam sork with streak. Like, can you aim your streak where as soon as you use your streak to stun them, can they get hit with Celine's, or is you going to go through them and then your Celine's going to hit no one?
I don't know if that streak counts as melee damage because I think it has to proc off of melee damage. So
yeah, I mean,
sure.
I think that would be a good thing if you can stun them with streaks, turn around, and then as soon as you go into your combo, like I could see Celine's being pretty good on a stam sork.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Or really, just about any stamina character already is great.
I mean, that's kind of what this is going to become, right? This is going to be the stamina monster set, kind of. This seems like the go-to right now.
Totally. It's going to be that. Celestrix, still pretty popular, probably going to continue to be just because it has that stun as well. That's the patch notes for this week of PTS. I mean, there's a lot more than that, of course. We just kind of picked out the juicy bits. Just search for ESO PTS on Google, and you'll see the very first link that comes up if you want to see all the details and the discussions on the forums happening around it. It's all there. I think that's all we're going to cover on it right now, but we still have much more Elder Scrolls related stuff to discuss. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about what we've been doing these last few weeks. So hang tight, and we'll be right back. Davis, how have the battlegrounds been going here lately, man?
You mean the Death Grounds?
The Death Grounds. Sorry. What did I say? That is what they've been. There's been a lot of death happening in Battlegrounds, that is for sure.
Yeah. I think overall, I don't know. It's pretty good. I mean, obviously, Battlegrounds are kind of our favorite aspect of the game. Group Battlegrounds still makes up for everything that is just great. Group Battlegrounds, they're back still. They're still great. Still the most fun I have playing the game.
Certainly.
But the damage is a little high right now.
The damage is so high. To the point where, yes, group BGs are fun because that's the only way to have fun, I think, right now. Like, you gotta have at least a buddy who's watching out for your back and can toss you a heal in a dire moment or something. Yeah, man. It's intense.
It's kind of changed from, there was those certain names that you got used to and you're like, okay, watch out for that guy. He hits hard. And now it's like when you're getting ready for a Battleground's about to start, you're like, okay, watch out for everybody. They're all going to hit hard.
Watch out for everyone. And it's, it's exactly what kind of was predicted with all these powerful proc sets being put into the game and the Malakath Band of Brutality. There's a lot of no skill required builds out there.
Yep.
And it sounds like, okay, well, that's putting like damage, that's giving like low level players or low skilled players access to lots of damage, which is true, but it's also exposing them to so much more damage than they were exposed to before because everyone is running those builds. And so we've talked about it lots of times in past episodes, how you enter a battleground and just the environment is against you, right? Before any enemies even know you're there or even start trying to focus you or anything, you're already struggling to stay alive just from the AoE and the procs and all this passive background stuff happening.
Yeah.
Like, just approaching the fight is challenging.
It's kind of reminiscent of the dot meta,
It's worse, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna kind of say, in the dot meta, it got to this point where it's like, God, like I feel like I'm just like, for the majority of the battleground, I'm just trying to survive. Yeah. And I think we're right kind of back to that point where it's like, I'm just focusing on trying to stay alive right now rather than even going through anything or even playing. It's just, before the battle, like you said, before even the battle starts or before you even really get up to someone, you've been hit with all this stuff.
Yeah. And there are certain builds out there that seem to thrive in it, and they can soak up that damage and they can dish it right back out. Most of them seem to be wardens,
Yeah.
for the most part. They just have that toolkit, and we definitely are seeing. So one thing that I do think is kind of defining of the current, I guess we'll say, meta, is that there is a lot of build diversity. I think probably more build diversity, like more viable builds out there than I've seen in a really long time. That's not to say there aren't certain very popular builds, but I think we're seeing a lot of just very viable builds that like function in different ways. Like there's, perma blockers, gankers have come back in no CP. Like there are some seriously effective gankers that I haven't seen gankers in like high MMR battlegrounds in ages, and I'm seeing them now, and they're doing it. They're getting their ganks.
We ran into one last night that it was just like, oh my,
yeah,
that just happened. That guy was pretty great.
So I feel like the player base has kind of turned a little bit of a corner in that regard, as far as like accepting that this is what the meta is now, and if I'm going to play PvP, I have to gear my build so that it can be effective in this meta. It's taken about this long, but I feel like we've reached a point where there is some semblance of balance in Battlegrounds. It's just that balance is at such an extreme, elevation.
Yeah, as you were summing it up earlier, I think that's kind of the part that stood out to me, is that I think their idea with this damage increase was like, okay, let's give these less experienced players a chance in these Battlegrounds against some of these really great players. Well, really great players are really great players. And so now, yes, these less experienced players, they can kill the great players. But these really great players now, you're seeing like 32 kills.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, I guess the less experienced players are maybe having some fun because they're getting more kills. But those same players that, may have been going like 1-4 are now going like 7-14.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's really better for them. I mean, the great player, like as you said, everybody's getting the damage. So the great players are still great. They just
and they're able to exploit that damage to a greater extent. So it's interesting. Like I said, there's a lot of build variety right now, but there is a particular very popular build. I think people would describe it as would say that this is the meta right now, but I think that that's a misuse of the term meta. So meta is an acronym. In this context, it's an acronym that stands for the most effective tools available. And I don't know if this build is that exactly, but it is a very effective build, and it's a very easy build to play. And for that reason, it's really, really popular. And it's you already know what I'm going to say. It's Crimson Twilight.
Yep.
It's the Vatishran Destro staff. It's either Grothdar or Zahn monster set.
Yep.
And the Malakath Band of Brutality. And it
There
doesn't
it is.
matter what class, but if you can put it on a Warden, even better.
Yep.
But really, any class. I've seen a lot of Dragon Knights have a lot of success. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Build is everywhere. It is a successful build. Like I said, I don't know if it technically is the most effective build available in the game. No one can ever really know if that's the case.
Yeah.
But it's a very popular build. So for that reason, I've been kind of gravitating towards characters and towards setups that are really good at countering that specific build. So the characters that I've been playing with this week are mostly about that. And it's not really a conscious decision that I've decided these are going to be my good characters this patch. At first, I was just kind of cycling through all my characters, just playing with everyone all the time. And then eventually I just kind of noticed like, well, I'm just having better success with these characters. And so I just naturally start gravitating towards those. And those are the ones that I kind of stick with. Case in point, Exhibit A, Bobby Bobango, my Stamina Necromancer bow build, aka the magCro. This dude has really surprised me this patch. I hadn't played with him for a while. At first, I was just interested in other characters and getting other builds together. And it's probably about 3 weeks ago, I logged in with this guy just to see how he's doing this patch. And it turns out he's doing really, really well this patch. And it's been 3 weeks now. And when I'm playing solo, this is the only character that I want to play with right now. Because
He's doing just fine.
He's doing great. And what's funny is I haven't touched the build. I haven't changed the build at all since Greymoor. I haven't changed a glyph, a Mundus stone, nothing. He's exactly identical to the build video I made on YouTube however long ago. So it's been fun, and I guess it shouldn't be surprising that he's been so successful because he's an absolute perfect counter to these Crimson Twilight Vatishran builds that I was just mentioning. He's a stamina build. He's a ranged stamina build. Every bit of his offense can be launched from full long range. He's a wood elf with a bow, medium armor, 2 swift pieces, 4 well fitted. So he's at 7 medium, so he's incredibly fast. He has no problem maintaining that distance and staying far away. So these Crimson builds, they can't get close enough for their Crimson Twilight to hit, for their Vatishran, for their Zon, Grothdar. None of that can get close enough to hit this guy. And if they gap close him and get on top of him, for one, he's surprisingly survivable for the type of build he is. He doesn't just die right away. And he can stay alive long enough to break away and create that distance again and just launch right back into his offense. Yep. And it is a significant amount of damage. I guess I should say what the build is. It's 5 pieces Sheer Venom, 5 pieces Poisonous Serpent, and the Black Rose Prison Bow. I have a 2-hander on the back bar just for buffs and heals. Right now it's a Potentate's 2-hander. I think I want to get a Vatishran 2-hander back there just to get those stacks of weapon damage and just keep those stacks. Mm-hmm. But that's the build right now. Sheer Venom, Poisonous Serpent, Black Rose Prison Bow on the front bar.
It's lethal. It's a lot on you. It's
so lethal. And the bow is infused with a poison damage glyph, which I've talked about in previous episodes. Infused damage dealing glyphs in no CP are so powerful. Yep. It is an extreme amount of damage from really long range, and he's so speedy. And it's a type of build that's really uncommon. People are not used to coming across this type of spec, and so they're not used to countering his combo, like the way that he delivers it, and everything like that. So it's just, I found it to be extremely effective. Usually in those kinds of fights against those like Crimson Twilight builds, like in a 1v1 situation, I either kill them or they run away. Those are the two, like 9 times out of the 10, it's one of those two outcomes, because they seriously just stand no chance. It's a rock beats scissors situation. So I've really been enjoying that build quite a bit. Bobby Bobango, my Stamina Necromancer, I would say by far my best like solo queue character that I have right now, just because of that speed and that range and the fact that the damage is so extreme and people are not expecting it. They're not seeing it coming at all. So it's been a lot of fun. On the topic of Necromancers, Davius, I know you've been playing with your Magicka Necromancer, the never-ending Nord, which I've been enjoying quite a bit.
So speaking of characters that just kind of, rise to the top based on the current state of Battlegrounds right now, Never-ending Nord is my character of that. And probably my favorite thing about this character might just be how well he suits his name.
This dude does not know how to die.
I think that kind of a sub goal of this character is that after a battleground, I want people to kind of be like, God, that guy was never ending. And I think that's happening right now. So just to kind of go over the build, it is 5-piece Beekeepers, 2-piece Troll King, and then 5-piece Winter's Respite. And I've talked about this build in the past, but man, has this kind of been, you're talking about builds that what the current state of Battlegrounds kind of determines which one of our characters kind of works best. And this guy's my high MMR character.
Oh yeah.
His numbers are never crazy. At the end of a match, it's always a little misleading because his numbers never really get crazy. I guess the last couple of times that we've played, they're a little ridiculous considering some of the caveats to it. But the amount of health recovery that this guy has is just crazy, and people just unload their combo into him. Just to kind of give that number, so when everything's working and the Troll King's kicked in no CP, he has 3,414 health recovery.
Wow, that's a lot. And health recovery isn't affected by battle spirit, right? So like you just have that health recovery.
I just
straight
have
up.
it. Yeah. Just have it. Did
you already say what the build was?
Yes. So so the 5-piece Beekeepers, 2-piece Troll Kings, 5-piece Winter's Respite.
Got it.
And a big part of that health recovery, that's not counting the Winter's Respite heal circle that goes on the ground.
Yeah.
Which is, that's a 2,300 heal every second on top of that health recovery. Really, the strategy with this guy is he is a support build, but it's just to completely sap the resources from the enemies They come in on me. They go through their combos. They burn through their resources, and he just lives through it while he's healing the teammates up. And then it's just kind of let the teammates feast after they've just unloaded everything they have into him.
Yeah, that's necromancers are particularly good at that, I think.
Yeah, and I'm talking about this health recovery and the support and the healing he does, and he's got the spirit mender to help with those heals. At the same time, he's doing a crazy amount of just CC and just terrorizing the opponents while it's all happening. He's got a charged frost staff. He's using the remote totem. He's just making life miserable for opponents as they are dealing with all that. They're throwing all their resources into him. He's just surviving. And then it's fun for me, probably not for others. It's almost fun to get to this moment where it's like you can just see at this point where players are just like, oh God, I just give up at this point. Yeah. I'm just done dealing with it. And then it's like that's when your teammates can go in, and it works really well.
I really love grabbing like one of my really high damage characters and running alongside this guy because that very reason, like he's a really strong healer, and so you can just keep me alive while I'm focusing people down. And then once people realize you're the healer and they start trying to focus you, they can't kill you, and they're no longer focusing me, so I can just burn them down super fast. It's like they can't. There's no good decision for them to make in that situation. It works so well.
Yeah, and he's got so many just fail safes. As I said, the Troll Kings, when that kicks in, that makes his health recovery go through the roof. And if you do reach those moments where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm actually about to die, I have the Goliath Morthons.
Guess what, baby? Goliath.
Yep. Go straight to Goliath, and it's like, all right, here we go. We're good. Don't worry about it. So he's been a lot of fun in Battlegrounds lately, and probably just my best character. Just his damage numbers always surprise me because he's always just kind of throwing a Blast Bones out there. Or when he goes into Goliath, I have the AoE morph, so that actually does quite a bit of damage. I never even really try to do damage with him, but it's enough damage to kind of help out the team. He's not going to really get a whole bunch of kills. Usually all the kills are kind of accidental, but it's enough to where you're kind of just helping your teammates. But he's just a great support character. We kind of talked about this. magCro right now is kind of it's the best support out there right now for
top tier support for Battlegrounds. Yeah, I think so. We were talking about that before because we have other supports that are more like healers, pure healers, and they're much more powerful healers than our necromancers are.
Yep.
But our necromancers are, no question, far superior supports. Like I would take the necro over any of my other healers any day.
Exactly.
And it's because of all their crowd control tools, mostly, I think is the main thing.
Yeah.
Did you have any more to say about Neverwinter?
No. I mean, so speaking of magCros,
let's just keep talking about necromancers.
Yeah, let's just stay on necromancer.
So I've the one of the other builds that I've been spending a lot of time with is also my Magicka necromancer, whom I've named Despair. She's an Argonian. Her build has evolved a bit since the last time I talked about her. So it was 5 pieces Ice Furnace, 5 pieces Savara Scales, 2 pieces Mighty Chudan. It's a light armor build. So the new version of the build still have Ice Furnace, still have Savara Scales. I've put a Maelstrom Arena Resto Staff on my back bar. And Davis, you gave me this idea on the last episode. You were talking about this weapon and how you were farming it for a new character. I went out and farmed it and got it the next day.
Yep.
And here we are. It's been, I think, 3 weeks or so since that episode, and you still haven't gotten one.
I don't quite have mine. I don't quite have mine yet.
Thanks for the idea, though.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. I love to hear how well it's working. I love it. Love that it's working.
Let me tell you, it's pretty nice.
Okay.
So, Maelstrom Arena Resto Staff, whenever you critically strike with regeneration, I'm using Radiating Regen. Whenever that crits, you restore 500 Magicka. So a really, really strong sustain tool. And so that means Savara Scales is only complete on the front bar, which is actually perfect. It works perfectly as a front bar only set. I really like it that way. And then I've replaced Mighty Chudan. I know, gasp, right? But I don't know. I feel like I wanted just more like sense of chaos out of this build, and I wanted more damage out of this build as well. And she doesn't have high spell damage at all, so the best way to get more damage is to add a damage monster set. So I replaced Mighty Chudan with Celestrix, and this was a super good move. Celestrix is exactly perfect for this build. It goes really nicely with Ice Furnace and Savara because they are all three AoE procs, and they all three proc at the enemy's location rather than at my location. So I can keep good positioning and not worry about having to get right up in someone's face, and they're still taking everything that I have to throw at them. So I really like that. Plus, Celestrix, it pops up that circle, and anyone, as long as they're not on CC immunity, anyone that it hits, it stuns them. So it goes perfectly into my idea of this character, and your magCro too, Davis, of just creating this piece of ground that's just hostile to any enemies that enter the area. It fits perfectly into that whole concept of the build. So I really, really like that.
Yeah. Your changes to this build, as you said, it's kind of morphed to be more damage focused. And it's really kind of created a fun combo when we run both magCros.
Oh man,
it's
troll deluxe, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to take us down. You're dealing the damage. I'm getting the support. It's been that's a fun combo.
And we both have extreme amounts of crowd control and minions running around, and
it's kind of funny when we run those two builds. We haven't done it a whole lot, but when we do, almost every time in the battleground, we reach a point where it's like, all right, this is the point where the other teams are avoiding us.
Yep. They don't want to play with us anymore.
They don't want to deal with us, and so their new goal is just to avoid us.
Yeah. So all the crowd control with like Celestrix, and I'm using Wall of Frost and the remote totem, and my frost staff is charged, so I'm immobilizing people constantly. Just all of that working together just makes it really difficult for enemies to even come anywhere near. Plus all the AoE damage as well. With Celestrix in the mix now, it's like an average of like 12k DPS that I'm just surrounded by this cloud of 12k DPS that everyone just automatically has to deal with on top of the crowd control every time they come close. But for that reason, it's a really good support build. I'll talk more about that here in just a second. I have a lot to say about these builds. Just 'cause it's been so long since we recorded the last episode. Yeah. I've been chewing on a lot here. So I had to get rid of Mighty Chudan, or I didn't have to, but I did, which means that I do have to slot my armor buff now. And I know just a couple of episodes ago I went on a little bit of a tirade about how armor buffs are boring, no one likes using them, and I think I do still feel that way in general. But if the armor buff gives me something extra that's useful or interesting or fun, then fine, I'll use it. So I've been using the beckoning armor morph, the one where when ranged attackers hit me, it pulls them in. I super hate being on the receiving end of this ability. It seriously angers me every time it happens. So I've kind of been reluctant to use it for that reason, but it's too perfect, man. I think I've been twisted by the dark side with this thing. It's just, with all the AoE and the crowd control and stuff that I have going on, this is really the only answer that I have to ranged attackers. Necromancers are slow. I have no access to any kind of gap closer other than this. So if someone from range is focusing me and I'm caught out in the open, this is all I have, and it's actually perfect. It pulls them into where I'm at, where I have the upper hand. And even though that pull in gives them CC immunity, it gives them hard CC immunity. They can still get stuck in my Wall of Frost, and they often do. And by the time they figure out what's going on, they've already taken so much damage from all of my procs and from my allies focusing them. They often don't escape. And even if they do, they're going to think twice about focusing me again next time, because that was a harrowing experience for them.
Exactly.
So that's working out really well. And Davis, kind of like you were getting to a minute ago, it's getting to a point where it's hard to call this build a healer. Like I've always thought of this build as a healer, and she absolutely is a support, no question. And she has really good heals, no question. But we've been talking about this quite a bit, that really strong heals in Battlegrounds right now only really takes you so far. And I've kind of been thinking of it like veteran PvE. Like if you're in a trial boss fight that has one-shot mechanics and your DPS gets hit with a one-shot mechanic, your 20k Breath of Life isn't going to help them out in that situation.
Yeah.
Right? It's a similar situation in Battlegrounds right now, where damage is so high, especially in pre-mades where people are on comms and they're focusing targets. I mean, people die in the blink of an eye. It doesn't matter how much heals you have in those situations. You're not going to be able to out-heal that in such a short amount of time. So really what's almost even more important than heals, I mean, you do need to have heals, but what's maybe even more important than heals right now is what I refer to as enemy suppression. And that's kind of what we've all been talking about, and really what the Magic and Necromancer's specialty is just making life miserable for your enemies, making it hard for them to control their characters, making them like draining their resources, and just making it difficult for them to do the things that they need to do. So with all this crowd control and all this cloud of damage that they're constantly having to heal up from, like they're having a hard time focusing anyone. And even when they do focus someone, they're still being affected by that stuff even then. So, even though this character has maybe half as many heals as, say, my Magicka Warden, she's 10 times the support, because my heals are actually able to do something. I'm giving my enemies these moments of opportunity where they can actually catch a heal and save themselves and stuff like that. So, Magic and Necromancer is the way to go. I think it's awesome. The Remote Totem and Wall of Frost combined is just such an awesome tool together. Such awesome tools when combined together. And then I'm really liking this build. 5 pieces, Ice Furnace, Savara Scales, Maelstrom Arena, Resto Saf on the back bar, 2 pieces Celestrix.
Yep.
What other important abilities? I'm using the Blast Bones, the Skeletal Arcanist, Intensive Mender. Not optional. That's the MVP ability. Yeah. That specific morph, the Intensive Mender.
Yep, that's what I use too.
So strong. Of course, you got to have Radiating Regen, and you got to have Race Against Time, because it's a Magicka build, so that's mandatory. But anyway, been having a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, and kind of, as you said, right now, and we do this anytime we want to, or anytime we have kind of a rough couple battlegrounds, we talk. One of us is going to go grab the magCro.
Right. Yep.
We're going to go grab a character with the magCro. Either one of our magCro, that's going to be the support.
If
one of us grabs a high damage.
Yeah, if either one of us grabs our magCro, we're going to have an easier time.
It's just going to feel better.
Absolutely. And this is the one character I have that, seriously, my only character. And it's a light armor, technically a pretty squishy build, but I feel so confident in this character, just sauntering right up into the middle of a battleground, like standing right on top of a flag and just saying, "Come and get me." I really like that feeling on this character.
It works, and it works.
Yeah.
So speaking of magCros, and as you really just kind of what you were saying, my main Davis Starjumper, he's a Magicka Templar, full heal focused, deals 0 damage, only heals.
So wait, speaking of magCros, you're magPlar.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say magCro?
Yeah.
It's just what Davius wishes he was right now.
Yeah. Look how much fun those magCros are having.
Yeah. So my magPlar, I apologize.
Speaking of healers, I think is what you meant.
There
right?
we go.
Yeah.
There we go. But really, just kind of what we've been saying, I really kind of had to take a look at Davius and think, all right, the state of Battlegrounds right now, you can't just heal. Where Davius used to be, he used to just be fully dedicated to healing, and it just wasn't quite working out. I noticed that, his heals were getting overpowered. He was getting overpowered. He was kind of losing tankiness. And so I kind of had to go back to the drawing board. And as we've joked, he's not what my magCro support is right now, but I wanted to at least get him to where he's competitive in matches, and I think I've got him there. The biggest thing was, as we said with the magCros, you can't just heal anymore. You need something else. And so what I did to kind of get that is he doesn't have the CC that the magCro has. But I put Spell Power Cure on him just to kind of give the team, a team buff with the buff that the Spell Power Cure buff that it gives the what's the name of that called?
Courage,
yes.
Major Courage.
With Major Courage getting the buff that it recently got, giving your entire team 430 weapon and spell damage. That's a big part. He's given a pretty massive damage buff to the team. And then the other change that I did is I actually threw the Vatastrand Resto staff on his back bar. To get
you're going to say Destro there for a minute.
No. Okay, everyone calm down. The Vatastrand Resto staff, which I don't think you see this one as much. The animation for it's a little bit harder to see, and we've all seen that Destro staff animation so much that this one's probably been wiped from our minds. But it's really just kind of the opposite of the Destro staff. Really what this one does is that you throw a beam on somebody, and then you're just giving you and your teammates a lot of sustain. And so really I kind of just throw that beam on an enemy, give my teammates sustain, give them more weapon damage while I'm hitting them with really strong heals. And so that's kind of made Davius where he is more effective now, and I'm seeing better use in Battlegrounds with him.
That's good. And that Spell Power Cure applies to you, which pumps up your heals as well.
Exactly. So I get the buff as well, so then my heals get a really big buff.
I really like playing with Davius along with my Magicka Warden Lola. I think they're both kind of in a similar boat where, back in their day, they were
back in the day, they were the kings.
They were great, and in this current meta, without making some serious changes to the build, and they just can't compete with our magCros right now. But when we combine them together, they actually make a really good pair. They're both super strong healers, and their combined toolkit works really well. Lola actually deals a bit of damage, has a moderately decent amount of firepower, and with your now wearing Spell Power Cure to add on top of that, it's actually a pretty good amount of firepower with the heals and everything. And we're like cleansing each other back and forth and stuff, because I'm wearing a Curse Eater, one of my sets. It's a good pair. Like double healers usually going to work pretty well. As much as we say like straight healing doesn't work as good right now, if you have two really strong healers, okay, fine, it'll work. It might work.
There you go. Case. And that's the thing with Davius. Like I said, magCro is kind of where it's at with support, but I've been really excited with his results just because I kind of had to adapt and change him where he has really strong heals now, but he's also he's doing something else. You can't just be a heal focused character, and he he's the definition of that. He did 0 damage, only heal focus. So now with these buffs that he's giving to the team, he's been doing really well. The other big change that I made to him that has been, it's been massive for him, and it hurts me a little bit to say, is that I actually took off the Templar healing ultimate, which is my favorite skill in the game.
I was surprised when that happened.
It was painful to do, and I've thrown on the Resto Staff Ultimate. So, I've talked about this build in the past. I'll go over the item sets just to kind of as a reminder. It's, now with the change, it's 5-piece Cold Harbor's favorite, 5-piece Spell Power Cure, and then the Pearls of El Nefeh, and then, as I said, the Vatastrand Resto on the back bar.
Yeah. The
Pearls of El Nefeh, as I've said in the past, it is the ultimate generator.
Yeah.
And how often I'm getting that Resto Staff Ultimate. That thing, it works out so much better than I keep wanting to call the Templar Ultimate. As I said, it's my favorite skill in the game, and now I'm blanking on the name of it. But I keep wanting to call it the Ritual, and it's not the Ritual, but
is it Remembrance or?
Yes, thank you. So Remembrance, anybody that uses it knows that it locks you in place, and I use the 4-second more, so I'm not locked in place as long. But in the battlegrounds right now, locking yourself in place for 4 seconds is just suicide.
And as strong as that ultimate is, it's still not strong enough to out-heal the damage.
It's not. And it got nerfed, It used to give you the major protection nerf really hurt that ability. It used to give you 30% damage reduction. Now that's only 10% damage reduction.
Yeah, that's big.
And so anytime I was doing that ability, which is, that...
It's also just a clear target on your back. Oh, that guy's the healer.
Yeah.
There he is.
And healing ult is what Davis is all about. And so... doing that ability was just it was just instantly leading to me getting killed. And so throwing that restoration staff ultimate on there, casting it all the time, still being I can move around as it's going and still do other heals. And massive change.
And it's not an obvious animation. It's an instant cast that you can animation cancel it. So you're not advertising hey, healer here,
Yeah, exactly. And with the Pearls of Elnafay and Davis being Nord and how quickly he generates the ultimate, we were doing a battleground and I was kind of doing testing to see how quickly I did it. And I think it was every 14 seconds I'm casting it. And it lasts
we
for
were
5
in that
seconds.
BG and you were calling out every time you were casting it. And I was cracking up laughing because I was you just casted it. You were casting it when we weren't even taking damage. Just why not? I'm going to have it again here in just a second.
I'm going to have it here in a second. Might as well do it. That's what David's all about. And I think it was about 14. It was around 14 seconds that I was getting it. And it's got a 5-second uptime. So there's about a 9-second downtime that I don't have the Resto Staff Ultimate going. And anybody that's familiar with that ability knows how strong a heal that is. And so I've actually had a lot of fun with Davis. He's actually effective again. He's given the team buffs. His heals are as strong as ever. So he's been a lot of fun lately.
Nice, man. We got to get him together with my Magicka Dragon Knight. This is the one other character that I've been spending a lot of time with. This is the last one I'm going to talk about today. I know, Davies, you have one more build, but this is my last one. And she's a little different from the others. So she's my Magicka Dragon Knight in Breton. Her name is Misato Katsuragi. Any fans of the anime series Neon Genesis Evangelion, you'll recognize that name. But this build is different from the others that I've talked about today because those builds are all about countering the current meta and making it difficult for people that are using those specific types of builds, Crimson Twilight and all of that. It's kind of all geared towards that. Whereas this build here is more about kind of going toe-to-toe with those builds and meeting the meta on its own terms while still not using those sets specifically, though.
Yeah.
It's also cool because it's I think a natural evolution of what the previous build was. And I have the old build on YouTube, but I wouldn't recommend it now. But the old build was 5 pieces Overwhelming Surge, 5 pieces Elfbane, 2 pieces Grothdar. It was a great build in its day. So now I'm still using Overwhelming Surge. I'm still using Grothdar. Those are my 7 body pieces. I have another Maelstrom Resto Staff on the back bar. Sorry, Davis. You gotta love that reconstruction system. And actually, you reminded me because I was talking about. I was I'm gonna have to go grind for another one now. And you're like, no, dude, just spend 25 transmute crystals and make a new one. I'm like, oh yeah,
so simple.
As I was making it, I was like, Davius hasn't even gotten one yet. Now I have 2 and 2 different characters. So Maelstrom Resto on the back bar to get that extra sustain. Front bar, Black Rose Prison Inferno Staff. And that's the one where whenever you use Pulsar, the Destro Staff AoE spammable ability, anyone that you hit with that ability gets a really strong elemental dot placed on them. And it's perfect because Pulsar blasts in this circular AoE area that's centered around your character, just like Overwhelming Surge, just like Grothdar. They all 3 just kind of stack right on top of each other. It's perfect. And then on the jewelry, it's 2 pieces Trainee and the Malakath Band of Brutality. And that's the magic ingredient right there. If you can get a build with 3 procs and Malakath, you win most of the time.
This character's damage, when you play with this character and play with it, every battleground, I'm always, that's the first thing I do at the end of the match. Doesn't even matter. I'm like, all right, I want to see how much damage Misato did, because 1 million damage for this character is like,
it's low.
It's like a bad match.
Yeah.
If this character doesn't drop 2 million damage in a battleground now, I'm like, hey, Kat, what happened there? Were
you even trying?
You didn't hit 2 million damage. Like, what was going on there?
It's because of all the AoE, and this is a character that I like to play along, like in pre-mades, like with a support by my side, which she's survivable enough to play solo. I have a good time with her solo, but she really shines when there's support. And in this current meta, it's so much fun, man. You get in those matches, the really sweaty ones where everyone's just in this big, nasty dog pile. Like, Misato can't wait to get in there, man. Like, that's where she feels right at home. As long as there's a healer to be watched out, it's really good.
I have to give the statement that me and Kat will be the first to admit we are not the best ESO players out there. There are several players that are much better. Certainly. And if you ever want to know if me and Ket are doing our best to flex, I'm on Never End Ignored, Ket's on Misato. That's a sign that Battlegrounds have not been going great for us that night, and there's a little anger there, and we are going into matches all out at that point.
We are trying our best right at that moment.
If we're on those two characters, things have gotten serious.
Davius is on his magCro healer. I'm on my magDK. Yeah, we're going for sweaty, for sure.
And they do pair very well, if I do say so.
Yes, yeah. All the combined, they have a lot of AoE damage, and they both have a lot of CC. Misato has a lot of CC as well. And I guess that brings me to another thing I want to talk about with this character, which is the Burning Talons ability. Man, I have been sleeping on Burning Talons, man. For too long. My reasoning has always been, you read Burning Talons and basically it just immobilizes enemies. It deals a little bit of damage, but really the main thing is it immobilizes. And Fossilize, it stuns and immobilizes enemies. So my reasoning was like, why do I need both? I'll just use Fossilize, which is perfectly valid reasoning. You only have so much bar space. That's a perfectly good reason to not use Burning Talons. But if you can make room for Talons and use Talons and Fossilize together, man, it's rewarding. It's rewarding to you, punishing to other people. So to me, it's become this game of tricking enemies into making a mistake, and then punishing them for it severely. And so what I do is, you don't want to use Fossilize and Talons at the same time. That would be pointless. It doesn't do anything beneficial, really, to use them both. So what I will do is I'll usually gap close to my target or into a whole group of enemies, and then Talons them all down and then blast them with my Pulsar. So they all have all three of my procs on them now, and they're standing in my Talons. There is, I would say, almost a 100% chance that at least one or two of those players are going to roll dodge out of your Talons. And that's when you immediately fossilize one of them, and then lay into them with your whip. So they just got done spending stamina dodging out of your Talons. Now they're going to have to spend even more stamina to break out of your fossilize. And depending on how long that takes, they may still be immobilized by fossilize even after they break out. And even if they have plenty of stamina, at this point, they've already been standing in your procs for at least 3 seconds. And that's way too long to be CC'd, not defending yourself, taking continuous damage from this build. It's already too late at that point. Like, it's just a little light attack weave and they're toast. Or if you're trying to take out multiple people at once, just keep spamming Pulsar until they're all dead. It's very effective. Very, very effective, and super punishing and fun. And you just see it, just seeing it happen every time. Like you trick them into making that mistake every single time, and just when it works, which it almost always works, it's rewarding and really fun.
That's what I was just gonna say. I don't think I can remember the last time I've seen a combo bring you so much joy.
Yeah, because it's such a minds game. And I mentioned this. We were doing some pre-mades last night, And I mentioned this to you guys, that playing with this character has made me better at utilizing CC on other characters and like understanding the difference between soft CC and hard CC and how to interplay between them and stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, when Masato's in the match, watch out. That is some crazy damage.
Yeah. On the topic of Dragon Knights, Davis, your last character today, looks like you want to talk about Lord of Nords, your stamina Dragon Knight. What's the deal with this dude, man?
Old Lord of Nords. He's my character that is kind of going against the grain with Battlegrounds right now. He's kind of hanging on to the old style of, this dude just hits hard. He doesn't have proc sets, doesn't really do anything. He just wants to dizzy. He just wants to dizzy, and even more so than that, he just wants to leap. The dude is a leaper.
We were talking the other day. Sorry to interrupt. I love that, watching him go through the animation sequence of heavy attack, dizzy swing, leap, execute. Just watching those things light up together with this big hulking man. He
is a Nord. I'm all about it. I love his look. His look is very much aggressive. He's as big as he possibly could be. He's got this look of armor where he is aggressive. He is in your face.
If WWE wrestling existed in Tamriel, he would be one of those.
He's in the ring. Yeah. He is in the ring. Just a quick kind of overview of the build. It's 2-piece Bloodspawn, 5-piece Champion of the Hist, and then on the front bar, it is the Great Sword of the Potentates, so two-hander of Potentates, and then the back bar, kind of a recent change, just get a little more damage, is the Maelstrom Great Sword. And there's the magic sauce, Malcast Band of Brutality.
There it is.
There it is. So the biggest thing with this character is all those sets. He's a Nord. The trait on both weapons is decisive, and they recently buffed that now, where it's a 55% chance to gain one ultimate whenever you gain ultimate. This, and I have the take flight ability with Potentates to reduce the cost of the ultimate. So his leap is about 91 ultimate. And as you said, I can pretty much get it almost every rotation. I would say it's about one and a half rotations he's getting the leap.
Yeah.
And so it's just all about, he'll get a couple dizzy swings in there. It's a fun build just because it's very simple. It's dizzy swing, as you said, dizzy swing, leap, execute. And it's just kind of in that order. I've recently made some kind of slight changes where I actually got fossilized on the bar. So that's kind of a nice little addition to kind of lock him in place if I need a little bit more to finish him off. But he is a lot of fun right now. You always make fun of me as we're playing because at the start in a battleground, you're just you're going from fights to fights and thing like that. He is making his presence known. He's leaping right into every single fight.
I love it when we're like walking up on a skirmish. I'm like, all right, guys, here we go. Get ready. And then, there goes
old Lord of Nords.
I was about to prepare like a pep talk here, and he already just leaped right into the middle of everyone, and he's already de-swinging his heart out over there.
He is fun. If you like builds that, really the most fun with him is that when he hits, you just feel the weight of his hits. Two-handed abilities kind of have that feel, but with this guy and the leap and the Malkath band, he can melt through people.
He's a brawler, for sure.
He is exactly how I kind of see Stamina Dragon Knights. He is made to exactly what I think of a Stamina Dragon Knight when I made him. So he's a lot of fun. Just hits real hard, and those executes, man. After his leap does so much damage with the Malakath band that I actually cast the Executioner ability more than I cast the Dizzy Swing ability. Because he just gets him in that range, and then he just starts executing as he goes through a group. And so this has been my favorite character to run when you go grab a support build, and I just need kind of a heavy hitter. This has been my favorite one to grab here lately.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. I like just how you have the character model, just the way he looks, and yeah, it's always a fun time. And this are kind of like I don't know. I feel like we get into a certain headspace whenever Lord of Nords is around. We get a little more rowdy, you know.
A little rowdy. Things get a little crazier, you know. We get a little more brave. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So that's the main builds we've been playing with lately. Anything else that you want to talk about that's been going on?
We do have to talk about something here. We've got to mention this. So as we've mentioned, I have had some slight issues with the Maelstrom Arena grind for the Precise Regeneration Resto staff. Anybody who is on the wonderful Scrolling Podcast Discord has gotten to see firsthand my woes. I am on run number 23 without a single Resto staff drop.
Ugh. I think it took me 5. I think it took me 5 runs.
Oh, I remember exactly how many it took you. I remember the day, the time, where I was.
It's so sad too because you get one and that's the whole collection of that set technically. So it's just 25 transmutes to just pump out another one and another one and another one.
23 runs. 23. I have 6 lightning staffs. 6 lightning staffs, not a single resto staff. I've got lightning staff. I have every other weapon in multiples, which would make sense after 23 runs.
Right, you would expect.
I can craft almost any Maelstrom Arena weapon. I've unlocked all different kinds of them, the different model. You know, if the sword and shield, you know, dagger, sword, axe, you know, I've got them. Don't worry. You take your pick of what. I can craft all of those for the 25. You know, I've collected all the pieces, all the Destro staffs. I've got all those. I can make those for 25 transmute crystals. Still have yet to grab that Resto staff.
What if it's like you never get it?
It just never happens. I mean, I you know, sometimes I just go back and listen to the joy in my voice when in the episode when I was talking about
I'm going to get the Maelstrom Resto,
I've
guys.
got this great idea. I think I've stumbled on something here. This Resto staff as the back bar, what a great way of sustain. You know, how foolish I was. The joy in my voice, how naive I was back at that time. Yes. So, you know, we joke now. Anytime you log on, you just send me a quick whisper, "Hey, good luck," because you better believe I'm in Maelstrom Arena doing my run. Yeah, that's just where I live now. That's my in-game house is the Maelstrom Arena. That's just where I hang out in-game now.
Yeah, and can you imagine back before transmuting existed?
Oh gosh, no.
And back before the perfected, non-perfected system, so you had to do it on vet.
Yeah,
you had
we
to
talked
grind
about
for the
this.
specific trait.
It's crazy to think about, but it could be worse. And that's crazy to think about, but it could be worse.
This would even back then, this would be a pretty insane grind by those standards back then, I think.
It's crazy to me how much I can do a Maelstrom Arena with being so checked out to where I'll actually look at the screen and be like, what phase am I in? Which arena am I in? I will go through 3 arenas without even realizing what buttons I'm clicking. I will I'll pull up a show on another screen. I'll be on a phone call. Like I can just do. I bet you I could do that arena blindfolded at this point. So yes, any listeners out there, please, you know, throw your well wishes my way. Wish me good luck, lucky rabbit's foots. You know, anything to throw my luck my way for my next Maelstrom Arena run. That would be much appreciated.
Yeah. I wonder if your story is more sad than my story that I have to tell. Maybe listeners should vote. Listeners can write in.
We need to do a poll. Listeners, if you need to respond. Which story is more sad?
So Davius ran 23 Maelstrom Arena runs, still no Resto staff. My thing. So I have a title here that I come up with. It's called Unintentional Hokkaido Giveaway, a Cautionary Tale. So, what was this, last week or something? Davius needed some tri-stat glyphs for a character of his. He needed 7 Hackijos, or we call them Hacky Joes because it sounds funnier.
Old Hacky Joe.
And he was low on Telvar, so he hit me up and he's like, hey, can I buy some Hacky Joes from you? And I'm like, hey, homie, hook up. No purchase necessary. Follow me. We'll go to Imperial City. I'll hook it up.
Oh, jeez.
So we pour it in. I go to the banker, pull out the Telvar. I go to the merchant. I buy the Hacky Joes. I run over to where Davius is, invite the trade, send him the Hacky Joes, close the trade. We're done. Then I get a whisper from some stranger. Oh, go ahead.
Hold on. I've got to point in where I'm at in this story.
Okay.
At this point, you've closed the trade window, and you say, "Wow, not even a thank you. That's a little harsh." And I immediately go, "What? What are you talking about? What?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And I think that's about the time you got the whisper.
And then I got a whisper from some stranger saying, "Wow, thanks." And then, of course, I realized, I traded these with the person standing next to Davius. Silly me. So I whispered them back and said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I meant to give those to my friend here. Can I please have them back?" And they whispered back and said, "LOL, of course." And so I'm like, "Oh, thank goodness."
Thank goodness.
Such a relief. We have a decent human being on our hands here. And then they proceeded to place me on their ignore list and log out. Yep. And I haven't heard from them or seen them since.
And they disappear.
So,
without the return.
They have no obligation to return those to me. I made a mistake. It's their Hacky Joe now, and it turns out they made the decision to keep them. So I'm sure that's going to work out really nicely for them, and I hope they get good use out of it. I mean, it's fine. I'm like being passive aggressive. I have a bit of a surplus of Telvar. It's fine. I just went and bought more and gave those to Davius, and it's all good. But man, I was sick for a little bit.
We both were a little sick. We've joked now, and it's probably truth to this. It's a story we probably won't ever forget. We've got a lifer story now in the world of ESO, where it was probably something that would have been forgotten over time, but now that one's gonna stick out for a while.
Yeah, I felt so dumb. It's like, I think I did the math and it was like over 400,000 gold worth of, like, between
a lot of gold.
Between that mistake and then what I actually ended up giving you in the end, those two things combined.
Oh, jeez.
And I don't have a ton of gold. I've never been someone to accumulate a ton of gold in this game, so that was a hefty chunk for me, for sure.
That was a painful one.
Yeah. So don't be like me. Make sure you're trading with the correct person. Anyway, moving on.
Moving on from our sad stories.
Yeah. So we're nearing the end here. A couple of shout outs. I want to first of all shout out to Danjavan. So I put out a message to the guild a couple of weeks ago saying, "Hey everyone, I want to get a transmute station for the guild hall. So if you have any sealed writ vouchers that you're not using, send those my way. I'll do the writs and I'll work towards buying this transmute station." So then I get an email back from Danjavan saying, "Hey, actually, here's just the transmute station."
Here you go.
Here it is. And so I'm like, wow, thanks. So I just immediately, I mean, it was seriously like 60 seconds after I sent that message out. And so I turned around and just sent a message back out to everyone. I was like, "Oh, never mind, everyone. Thanks to Danjavan." So we now have a transmute station in the guild hall. If there's anyone in the guild, just travel to my primary residence, Ket Sparrow Hawk, and that'll take you there, and you can transmute there. Maybe if you don't have access to Clockwork City, there you go.
Transmute station. Huge shout out for Danjavan on that.
Dude, I use transmute stations all the time. So just for me personally, if no one else uses it, I'm stoked about it.
I hear that you use it to make some Maelstrom Arena resto staffs.
Yep, I did do that actually. Yeah. Also, another shout out to Mowards. We did some pre-made BGs last night. Me, Davies, and Mowards. We did a few different things, but I think the standout match, we all three got on our StamPlars, all three wearing Wild Hunt. And man, we were just, I think Mowards described it as a wall of spears or something like that.
It worked well.
It's been a long time since I've had that much fun in a battleground. Jabs is an ability that just deals so much damage, and for the three of us to be on comms, focusing targets, all jabbing them down, man, it didn't matter how tanky they were. We were just mowing them down. It was so much fun. Yes. And we're also speedy and just running around. It was great.
Yeah, moving all over the place. Good support. It worked out well. Those were some pretty great matches.
We might have
several
to do that.
Great matches in a row.
Yeah, we might have to do that again. Try to find a fourth StamPlar and just go full into it.
We're looking for that fourth Wild Hunt StamPlar.
Yep, scrollingpodcast@gmail.com. So I mentioned our guild. We have a guild called Stoons Goons. We are primarily a social guild with a bit of a PvP focus. We also, of course, do lots and lots of dungeons and other things. We help each other grind for gear. The main thing we do is just kind of talk about build ideas, kind of what we do here on the podcast is just kind of a continuation of that when we're not recording. So if you're interested in theory crafting and just kind of goofing off and talking about builds and whatever else, we're very non-toxic, very open and inviting to really any and everyone, as long as you are also not toxic. So hit us up in-game PCNA. I'm at KetSparrowHawk. Davius is at StarJumper. You can also email us at scrollinpodcast. That's scrollin with an I-N, scrollinpodcast@gmail.com. What else?
I think that's all of it. I mean, I feel like that.
I feel like this episode isn't long enough, so we really need to come up with some more.
I honestly, I don't even know how long we've been here, but I know that it's been a long time. I at least have that, but it seems like it's gone by quick, just because, man, the patch notes right now, a lot of exciting stuff. I'm pumped for what's coming. So.
A lot of exciting stuff, and also we've started having this irregular release schedule too, and I think just having more time since the last time we talked. I think before, when we were doing an episode every week, we've been recording almost 3 hours now. I feel like that would have felt really difficult, even with all this exciting stuff. But having all this time, I couldn't wait to get here and talk and do this today. So I think we can expect more of that going forward. We'll probably release some more episodes pretty soon as we go through this PTS cycle. We probably won't wait too long to record another. I'm not going to promise one next week. It just kind of depends on the news and what there is to talk about. So we'll just feel that out. Of course, if anything cool happens, you bet we're gonna be there talking about it. I guess that's gonna conclude this episode. Thank you everyone so much for listening, and we will catch you next time.